Chapter 76. Okay, since there is no problem, let's not talk about it for now. Guangling took the initiative to end this relatively heavy topic and looked at the three of them. I will go back to Tiandu City in the afternoon to see if there is any news about the soul beast that Xiao Li wanted before. Just stay and protect them. By the way, you can stabilize your cultivation and provide psychological counseling to your granddaughters so that you won't be in a hurry. Having said this, he paused, glanced at Han Li calmly, and continued. It just so happens that her soul ring secret medicine should also arrive. When the time comes, let Xiao Li guide her in taking it. If she can strengthen it more before the martial soul evolves, the success rate will be higher. Han Li understood Guangling's meaning and nodded. He was about to find an opportunity to mention this matter. Since the master said it, he just agreed. Then I'm sorry to bother you. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, there won't be any problems with the two children. A look of gratitude flashed across Douluo's face. Guangling waved his hand and took the initiative to end the topic. He had heard so many words like this these days that he was almost immune to it. In the afternoon, watching Han Li re-enter the cultivation state, Guangling and Douluo said hello, then rose into the sky and headed towards Tiandu City. Tiandu City Spirit Hall. Guangling changed her disguise, took Sal's token, and entered his office unimpeded. 5 worshippers, the information you asked your subordinates to inquire about is now clear. As soon as he saw Guangling, Salas took the initiative to stand up and greet him, and immediately told the news Guangling wanted to hear. Oh? Tell me, what kind of soul beast it is, and the specific circumstances. Guangling didn't bother to be polite to him, so she found a seat and sat down, turned around and asked. It's really hard to find a soul beast that meets your conditions, but my subordinates mobilized all the personnel to search for relevant information. It was a coincidence that just yesterday, when I was looking through the information, I happened to see a soul beast that met your conditions. Salas quickly expressed the hardship involved, then respectfully took out a piece of paper and handed it over. This is the relevant soul beast information, please see if you are satisfied. Guangling nodded casually, took the initiative to filter out the hardship in Salas' words, took the paper and read it. Blue Shadow Condor? I seem to have some impression of it. I heard it somewhere. He murmured and continued reading. The green shadow condor is the fastest flying among eagles. It has high-speed flight and sharp claws, which can kill with one blow. At the same time, it can also change its own mass to fly faster. In addition, the green shadow god the eagle spirit also has the ability to track targets. As long as the tracking skill is used, no matter how fast the target is, it will be difficult to escape the pursuit of this powerful predator. Extremely fast speed, changing one's own quality, wind element. Guangling patted his head and finally remembered where he had heard it. Qingluan had told him a long time ago that when he was hunting souls, he encountered soul beasts like the green shadow condor, but because there was no third soul beast at that time, I recognized it instantly and let it escape, and I regretted it for a long time afterwards. Whether it's speed or changing one's own mass, these characteristics are quite suitable for Xiao Li. Wind element, this is not a problem, it does not conflict with his attributes anyway, but it is estimated that it will be difficult to shake the repulsion of the ice and fire elements. Very good, that's it. By the way, have you determined the scope of activities? Guangling put away the paper, nodded to Salas with satisfaction, and asked. This, not yet. Salas answered cautiously, and seeing that Guangling had no intention of blaming him, he quickly added. But I have already sent a letter to inform them. The last time our people encountered the blue shadow condor in the Stardow forest was probably more than half a month ago. But because it was extremely fast, it quickly disappeared. If we just confirm the general range, 10 days, no, 1 week, should be enough. Salas took the initiative to shorten the search time and planned to send a letter later, and paid a lot of money to encourage intelligence personnel to work hard to investigate. Seeing his reaction, Guangling knew that this guy was going to exploit the lower-level people again, and immediately waved his hand, no rush, just have news within half a month. Don't let the intelligence personnel go deep without authorization because of me. There will be no unnecessary casualties. Necessary? Yes, 5 offerings. Hearing Guangling's words, Salas secretly breathed a sigh of relief. If he could, he wouldn't want to do this. After all, it was his subordinates who lost. By the way, what's going on with His Highness recently? Guangling suddenly changed the topic. Nothing. There doesn't seem to be any other news. If there is anything, it's just that he missed a day of government affairs and claimed to be ill. However, my subordinates have already inquired about it. This is an excuse for His Highness to make a breakthrough and release it to the outside world. Salas was not surprised that Guangling asked this question. Judging from the frequency of contact, it can be seen that the relationship between the two should be very good, so he reported the report honestly. A breakthrough. Guangling showed a smile. Zioxia should have successfully absorbed the fairy grass. Okay, I'm ready to leave. Just pay attention to the news about Qingying Condor. I will come back in half a month. Guangling stood up directly and walked towards the door. Oh, by the way, just remember to give the order and let the intelligence personnel keep an eye on it. Don't alert the enemy. Finally, before leaving the house, Guangling turned around and gave another warning. Yes, Fifth Lord, I will convey the message. Salas bowed and left quickly without caring about what Guangling said. This trip back to Tiandu City, Guangling got the news about the soul beast Han Li needed, and was in a very good mood. When he returned to the Sunset Forest, he even flew much faster than before. Xiao Li, come out quickly, there is news about your third soul ring. As soon as Guangling landed in the basin where the yin-yang eye of ice and fire was located, he shouted loudly in the direction of the stone chamber where Han Li was practicing. Han Li heard the familiar voice, quit practicing, stood up, lifted the vines at the entrance of the cave, and walked out, with a helpless look on his face. This is because Douluo continent does not care about going crazy, the circulation route of soul power is relatively fixed, and they are all wide meridians, so you can stop it at will. Otherwise, with the master's operation, in another world, his end would definitely be the backflow of true qi, the bursting of meridians, and the bleeding of the 7 orifices. Master, what kind of soul beast is it? Han Li took the initiative to greet him, looking at Guangling with a happy face and said. Here, they are all on it, take a look for yourself, I think it suits you very well, your uncle Qingluan didn't catch this guy back then. Guangling took out the paper he had put away from his storage belt and handed it over. Green Shadow Divine Eagle. Han Li had a vague impression of it just by looking at the name. He calmed down and continued to read until he finished reading all the information, then nodded. He remembered that there seemed to be a divine eagle Douluo in the future, who was said to be able to match the speed of the 97th level with the 99th level, but he didn't see the follow-up, so his impression was not very deep. However, just looking at the information recorded on the paper, he was a little moved. Chapter 77. How's it going? Not bad, right? When I return to Wuhan City, I can show off to your master. This is the soul beast that escaped from him back then. Guangling saw his apprentice's intention and made a joke. Well, thank you master, I also think that the blue shadow condor is very suitable for me, and maybe I can get its wings. In this case, I can fly much faster, and the movement and consumption will be much less, and it will be temporarily short-lived. The board was also made up. Han Li put the paper away and responded with a smile. Well, as long as you're happy. When Guangling heard what he said, she rolled her eyes unconsciously. She was still short-sighted. Who could be so perverted? Has a big brother of the same level beaten Xiao Li? He compared it in his mind with some uncertainty. Hiss, I can't think about it anymore, it seems a bit disrespectful to my elder brother, and Xiao Shuai is so cute. Forget it, Qian Sunji and Bibi Dong were definitely not as good as Xiao Li. After Guangling changed the target of comparison, she suddenly felt happy. By the way, Xiao Li, when things here are over, it seems that we have to go to the Star Forest again. The traces of the green shadow condor were found there. It will probably take half a month before they confirm the range. It's just a month, and you should have recovered by that time. Guangling thought of something again and said something to Han Li. Star Forest? Forget it, let's just do it this time. When we're done, we'll go back to Wuhan City. Han Li adjusted his original plan in his mind, thinking about how to talk to Douluo and his grandson in the future. How are you going to deal with these two? Guangling lowered her voice and bent down to ask. I'm going to take Douluo back to Wuhan City. What do you think? Master. Han Li looked up at Guangling and asked for his opinion. I don't have any problem. Aren't you afraid that Xiu will be angry if you take her back? Guangling glanced at Han Li with a half-smile and teased. What are you talking about, master? Han Li glanced helplessly at his master, who was worried that he would not enjoy watching it. I am planning to take her back to train her. With the foundation of 9th grade Longji, she will definitely be a strong companion in the future. Of course, Han Li still had something to tell Guangling, and he also had prepared external soul bones to give as a gift. For such a big gift, no matter what, she had to stay with him for a while, and Douluo had to say it was okay. He originally planned to stay in Tiandu for a while to cultivate feelings, but he didn't expect that he had to purify his martial soul all day long, so he had no time to think about anything else. In addition, the third soul ring still had to run to the Stardo forest, and it took a lot of time to go back and forth. Even he felt that this time was wasted and felt a little distressed. In this case, after the matter here is over, Douluo will become a soul master immediately. Even if he wants to maximize his profits, he has to get the external soul bone first, and the cultivation of feelings can only be postponed and brought back. Wuhan City is the best choice. Furthermore, he was planning to pry this girl away. This was the land of love, and he didn't want to make a wedding dress for anyone else. Okay, it's up to you. Seeing that what he said made sense, Guangling nodded in agreement, but secretly sighed in her heart. It seems that Zioxu is in trouble. Oh, forget it, just take it one step at a time. They have no chance of contact at all. It's all Qian Sunji's fault. You said you were fine, but what kind of bullshit plan were you going to make to steal the country before you died? It's fine now. Not only was Zioxu's cultivation talent wasted, but also my Guangling's disciple-in-law was lost. Well, and that crazy woman Bibi Dong, just wait for me. When you get back, let Xiao Li beat up your apprentice to vent his anger. By the way, master, I have one more thing to trouble you. Han Li looked at Guangling. What's up? Ask Bishop Salas to prepare a few criminals or fallen soul masters who need soul ring promotion, the kind with the most heinous crimes. Soul masters or soul sex can be used, of course it is best to be soul sex. When you go to the Stardo forest, bring them come with them. A trace of cruelty flashed in Han Li's eyes as he spoke. Hey? Xiao Li, why did you suddenly mention these people? Guangling frowned and looked at him with some doubts. He was still a little worried in his heart. He wondered if there were any hidden dangers left by the erosion of the martial spirit this time, which caused Han Li to change in a bad way. This is all guided by fate. Just after I decided to go to the Stardo forest, I secretly felt that I should do this. Han Li sighed in his heart, not daring to look at Guangling's eyes. He couldn't tell his master directly that he wanted these people to be the guides to absorb the soul rings and attached soul bones, and then seize them a second time. Don't worry, master, I don't like to take people's lives easily. There may be some opportunity to use them this time. When we come out of the Stardo forest, these people will be returned to the local spirit hall. Han Li added bravely. Forget it, they are just some scum, they will die if they die, but, Xiao Li? Are you really not affected in any way? Guangling looked at Han Li for a while, then cautiously asked. Absolutely not, master. I can swear on my martial soul that I will voluntarily accept the inspection of the great enshrinement after I return. Han Li could feel Guangling's concern for him, raised his head and met his eyes. No, master believes in you. Guangling and him looked at each other before shaking their heads and smiling. I know you have a secret, so I'll hide it. As long as you don't pass the line, I'll pretend I didn't see the rest. But you must remember that you must not fall. Do you understand? Otherwise, I will kill you with my own hands. Guangling's tone became serious, and this was the first time Han Li saw his master so serious. Yes, I understand, master. Han Li nodded solemnly in reply. Okay, it's okay then. I will help you solve this matter. Guangling's expression softened again. Okay, let's go practice. You can actually tell Douluo about this. Guangling mentioned it casually again as if it was unintentional. Master, there is really nothing wrong with me. Han Li, who had just taken a few steps, turned to look at Guangling and made a weak argument. Okay, go practice quickly, I will always watch you, brat. Guangling smiled and sent away Han Li, who wanted to say something else. When Han Li re-entered the stone chamber, Guangling turned around and looked in the direction of the ice and fire eyes. There was a cold light in his eyes, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Han Li sat down cross-legged again and sighed. It's not surprising that Guangling was suspicious. There were some things that he really couldn't say. The key to the externally attached soul bone was that it had to absorb the soul ring in order to absorb it simultaneously. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had to take this trick. As for what Guangling said about letting Douluo do it, Han Li had no doubt that Douluo could handle it, but with his style, he didn't know who the soul master who would be responsible for the introduction would be. Although Han Li can be cruel, it does not mean that he is willing to let innocent people suffer for him. In contrast, taking some pressure and choosing those who deserve to die makes him more accepting. Maybe, this is hypocrisy? Han Li smiled, cleared his mind, and re-entered the state of cultivation. Chapter 78. It wasn't until evening that Han Li took the initiative to wake up and quit practicing. Well, just being hungry, that's the problem with Douluo. Just like Guangling, even though he has become a banned person, he still has to eat on time every day, and even the amount of food he eats is quite scary. After touching his dry belly, Han Li took the initiative to move towards the top of the platform. As soon as he went up, he smelled the fragrance. Guangling and Douluo were already there. "Where's Senior?" Han Li asked casually. Grandpa said there was a soul beast nearby whose meat was very delicious. He went to catch it and process it. He should be back soon. Douluo replied without raising his head. As soon as she finished speaking, Douluo's voice rang in the air, "I'm back, aren't you in a hurry?" Senior came back just in time. "I just finished my training." Han Li responded with a smile. "Just in time, how about you try this venison? I happened to catch a small one today, so I can show you my skills." Douluo raised his eyebrows at the master and apprentice, indicating that he wanted to do it himself. While chatting, dinner was quite lively. Well, Han Li confirmed that Douluo's craftsmanship is indeed pretty good and can be called delicious. After dinner, the four of them did not disperse. Instead, they moved 4 deck chairs and lay down on them, enjoying the evening breeze leisurely and admiring the starry night sky. "Senior, Master has brought the secret medicine today. Tomorrow, I will prepare to take care of Sister Yan to take it." Han Li turned to look at Douluo on the left and said, "Is there anything you can do for me? Just ask." Douluo straightened up a little and replied, "That's not true. There's no risk. At most, it's a bit unpalatable." "Well, you'd better prepare in advance. After taking the secret medicine, Sister Yan will probably have to take a bath immediately. You'd better prepare more bath water." Han Li thought of something and said with a smile, "Okay, no problem." Douluo said it was a piece of cake. "By the way, Senior, after Sister Yan's martial soul evolves, my master and I are probably ready to leave. My third soul ring has also been found, and I will most likely go to the Stardo forest. I wonder if you and Sister Yan, what do you plan to do?" Han Li asked casually, just like usual chatting. After hearing his words, Douluo and his grandson were stunned for a moment and looked at each other. They were so excited during this period that they forgot to consider this issue. "Are you going back to Wuhan City directly after this?" Douluo sat up. "That should be the case. I've been out for a long time this time, so it's time to go back." Guangling lazily interjected, expressing his attitude. "Well, Master and I have the same idea. Although Tiandu is good, it is not a place for us to stay for a long time." Han Li agreed. Douluo did not answer immediately, but looked at his granddaughter, then at Han Li, and fell into deep thought. After a long while, Douluo spoke again. "Xiao Li, it stands to reason that since I have decided to follow you, I should follow you to Wuhan City. I don't have any nostalgia for the Tiandu Empire. There are some industries on the left and right, which are not very important. But I still owe a big favor here that needs to be repaid. Otherwise, let Yan go there with you first. It will take at most 1 year, no, half a year, and I will find a way to repay the debt. Time passes, what do you think?" Douluo said in a tentative tone. "Senior can make up his own mind about this. We have agreed before that you are only responsible for protecting me, and there is no need to mention the followers. I will not restrict your personal freedom. Besides, when the time comes, I will return to Wuhan Cheng, there is no danger, don't worry, just go about your business slowly. As for Sister Yan..." Han Li leaned back and met Douluo, who turned his attention to her after hearing her words. He asked with a smile, "Sister Yan, what do you think? Should you go back to Wuhan City with me, or should you go back to Wuhan City with me? Will you go with Senior then?" "I'll go with you, and I'll join the spirit hall directly when the time comes. Duguyan replied succinctly, which was beyond Han Li's expectations. As if seeing his surprise, Duguyan continued, actually, I have wanted to visit Wuhan City for a long time. I heard that the current pope is still a woman, and I want to have a glimpse of her. In fact, I was planning to join before. The people from Wuhandian Academy and Tiandu Empire are still too weak. It was only my grandfather who told me that he had a rival in Wuhandian that stopped me. After saying that, she glanced at Dugubo, who was smiling coquettishly. Dugubo did not object to her decision. Ah! Unexpectedly, Bai Duguyan turned out to be a fan of Bibi Dong. However, Han Li reacted quickly and laughed dumbly. In fact, it makes sense. There are relatively few powerful female soul masters on the mainland. Bibi Dong is the top powerhouse today and is from the Spirit Hall. Pope, it's not surprising that Duguyan has this idea. It's a pity that I'm going to disappoint you. Bibi Dong won't give you a good look when you choose to stand by my side. Okay, then Sister Yan, please come with us to Wuhan City. If you want to go to the academy, I will go back and ask someone to send you to the academy. Han Li replied readily. Hey? Aren't you going to the academy with me? Duguyan glanced at him in surprise. Academy? Speaking of which, I have only visited. I haven't gone to school yet, and I don't want to go. Han Li changed into a comfortable position and said comfortably. Then how do you usually practice? Are you always at home? Duguyan asked curiously. Well, Master has specially built a simulated environment for me to practice, and there are also special personnel responsible for learning various types of knowledge. With my current learning progress, as long as the level of practice is improved, I can graduate from the academy at any time. In actual combat, there are master and uncle to practice with me. I have everything that the academy has, and I also have what the academy doesn't have. What's the point of going to the academy? Oh, by the way, I have a sister who grew up with me. When I arrive in Wuhan City, I will introduce her to you. If you want to go to the academy, you can try to persuade her to go with you, so that she doesn't just bury her head in practice every day. Han Li narrowed his eyes slightly, feeling the feeling of the wind blowing across his face, and answered her question casually. Your practice conditions are so good, no wonder you don't want to go to the academy. Duguyan said with some envy. Her family originally had a simulated practice place, but after her father passed away, it was sealed by Dugubo's order. In addition, although Dugubo was not poor, he was definitely not rich. After all, his methods were not very suitable for making money, and he was unwilling to join any force. It's no problem to support her to practice alone, but it's a bit unrealistic to create a simulated environment for her alone. That's why she chose to join Tiandu Royal Academy when she had a titled grandfather at home, and she mostly used the simulated environment there to practice. Well, if Sister Yan arrives in Wuhan City, you can also enjoy these resources with me. Anyway, I can't use them all by myself. If it's not suitable, at most you can spend money and have someone build a new simulated environment for you. Han Li said generously. Is Wuhan Hall so rich? Joining and getting a simulated environment for free? Dugubo and Duguyan both showed surprised expressions, looking at the master and apprentice in the same posture on the recliner, as if looking at the gold soul coins. Guangling noticed their gaze, opened his eyes, and said unhappily. What are you thinking? Xiao Li means that he can spend his own money to build a simulated environment for you. Chapter 79. Before Duguyan could speak, Dugubo on the side spoke first. Is Mr. Han Li so rich? What do you think? This guy's wealth is probably more than mine now. Of course, he earned all this by himself. Well, he researched the secret medicine your granddaughter will take tomorrow, and then he chose to sell it to Wuhan Palace. Do you think he will be short of money? Guangling said casually. Replied. Dugubo and Duguyan looked at each other and closed their mouths. Compared with Han Li, their grandfather and grandson were nothing short of useless. Senior, Sister Yan, don't listen to Master's nonsense. I only made a little money. Besides, we will all be our own people from now on. You don't want to look down on my little thing for the time being. Sister Yan will return to Wuhan with us. The city can be regarded as leaving my hometown, and it is just a mimetic environment, but I am still willing to do so. Han Li sat up from the recliner and showed a sincere smile. Dugubo and Duguyan looked at the smiles they were used to seeing on weekdays, but now they felt a little dazzling. It was the light belonging to the gold soul coins and cultivation resources. A night of silence. When the morning sun once again penetrated the mist and entered the ice and fire eyes, several people also woke up from their practice. Han Li stretched his legs that were a little stiff from sitting cross-legged, and walked outside. Perhaps it was because of the aura in his martial soul that was once again stimulated before that his recovery speed was faster than expected. At the current speed, he would be able to fully recover in 5 days at most. Today is the day we agreed to help Douluo take the secret medicine, so we should just relax for ourselves. After briefly cleaning up his body, he headed towards the top of the platform. Good morning, Senior, good morning, Sister Yan. As soon as he showed his head, he saw his grandfather and grandson already standing in front of the cabin, waiting for him. Seeing that he had arrived, Douluo didn't waste any time. He turned around and fell towards the basin below, leaving space for the two of them. Looking at the direction, he should be looking for Guangling. Sister Yan, are everything ready? Han Li smiled and turned to confirm the situation with Douluo again. Don't worry, it's all inside. Douluo patted a bag hanging on his waist to indicate that he was ready. Okay, let's go inside. Han Li raised his chin slightly and pointed at the cabin behind her. Okay, little brother. Douluo was worthy of being a member of the Royal Tiandu Academy in the land of flowers and wine. Following his words, she gave him a wink, entered the cabin first, and raised her finger at him provocatively. Han Li ignored her and followed her in. Over this period of time, the two gradually became familiar with each other, and Han Li had long been accustomed to her style. Douluo's daily life is also divided into 2 states. One is when Douluo is present, which is called a well-behaved and ladylike state, and the other is when they are alone. She always likes to verbally tease him a few words from time to time. It didn't hurt, so Han Li followed her. After entering the house, Han Li looked at the hole that was opened on the top and installed a piece of transparent glass, and simply closed the door. Okay, go to bed. Hearing his words, Douluo rolled her eyes at him, but she still sat cross-legged on the bed obediently, ready to accept his next instruction. Close your eyes. Douluo obediently closed his eyes. The room suddenly became quiet for a moment, and then through her eyelids, she felt that the room seemed to light up, and there was a heat wave in front of her. Then, a pungent smell filled the room, as if Han Li had lit something on fire. But she still didn't open her eyes, instead closing them tighter. The next second, she heard Han Li's voice ringing in her ears again. Open your mouth. Subconsciously, she opened her mouth wide. Well. Before she could react, she felt something sticky being roughly stuffed into her mouth, and she retracted her tongue reflexively. It was fishy and hot. This was her first feeling. A strange taste spread in her mouth, and she was ready to spit it out immediately. At this moment, she heard Han Li's voice again, swallow it directly and start practicing quickly. Resisting the urge to vomit and feeling the unspeakable fishy smell, Douluo made a difficult swallowing motion, sending the strange things in his mouth into his esophagus, and quickly entered the cultivation state. Soon, she felt something different from her usual practice. The thing she swallowed quickly turned into a stream of heat in her body, flowing towards her limbs and bones, constantly strengthening her body of. Outside, Han Li glanced at Douluo, who had entered a state of cultivation, and found that her little face had turned red under the influence of whale gum, and besides strengthening her body, the heat emitted had also wetted her clothes. After thinking about it, he took the initiative to open the door and exit. Outside the door, Han Li was lying on a lounge chair nearby, feeling the fluctuations of soul power in the room and enjoying the sun. After almost half an hour, the soul power fluctuations in the room gradually weakened. Just as Han Li was about to get up and leave, the wooden house behind him was quickly opened, and a figure rushed towards him quickly. Han Li quickly stopped getting up and looked up, only to see Douluo standing in front of him, blocking the sun with his body, looking at him excitedly. Sister Yan. Xiao Li, thank you. Douluo grabbed his hand. No, Sister Yan, how about you change your clothes and we'll talk again. Han Li touched his nose awkwardly, tilted his head slightly, pointed at the clothes that were already sticking to her body, and reminded her. A gust of wind blew, and Douluo felt some heat being taken away from her body, and she couldn't help shivering. She lowered her head in some surprise, and then found that her clothes were almost soaked, and at a glance, there was still some flesh color. She finally knew why Han Li's behavior was so strange, and why she felt cold. Her pretty face turned red in an instant, and she looked at Han Li, who had turned his head to the side, opened her mouth to explain something, but still didn't say anything, quickly let go of Han Li's hand, and rushed back to the wooden house at a faster speed. Bang! As the door of the wooden house behind him was shut heavily, Han Li turned his head back with a strange look, squinted his eyes and looked at the sun in the sky, then closed his eyes again and continued to lie down. To be honest, this was not really none of his business. He had told them in advance to prepare the bath water and took the initiative to leave the wooden house. But who would have thought that Duguyan would take the initiative to rush to him after the training was over? Chapter 80. More than an hour later, just when Han Li was about to fall asleep in the warm sunshine, there was finally a movement in the wooden house behind him, and the door was opened with a creak. Duguyan had changed her clothes again, lowered her head, and walked in front of him again with a red face. How do you feel? Han Li took the initiative to ignore what happened just now and got straight to the point. I feel that my physical strength has improved a lot, but I can't tell the specific changes. Seeing that he avoided the previous oolong incident, Duguyan also breathed a sigh of relief, but still answered with a little hot cheeks. Give me your hand, I'll help you see how many soul ring years have been increased. Han Li sat up straight and looked at the girl, who seemed to have changed. Oh, okay. Duguyan hesitated for a moment, but still stretched out her hand, as if she didn't want to show her weakness in front of him. Han Li looked at Duguyan, who was holding on, with a bit of amusement, stretched out his left hand to grab her wrist, and stretched out his right hand to the forearm. He clearly noticed that when he grabbed Duguyan's wrist, her body couldn't help but tremble, tensed up instantly, and then slowly relaxed. He squeezed her hand with soul power in his right hand, and a rough number flashed through his mind, and he let go of her hand. Congratulations, Sister Yan, the age of your third soul skill has increased by about 450 years, and the effect of the increase is not bad. If your subsequent improvement can reach this level, at least in the short term, it should not be a problem for you to absorb a soul ring of about 4,000 years. If you consider that your martial soul will evolve successfully in the future, your third soul ring should reach 5,000 years without any problem. Han Li conservatively said his estimate of the age of Duguyan's third soul ring. Can it really reach 5,000 years? Hearing his words, even though Duguyan had seen a lot of things that broke her cognition during this period, she couldn't help but feel a little excited when it happened to her. After a few days, you will absorb the immortal grass and soon reach the soul master level. You can verify it yourself then. Do I need to lie to you? Han Li replied with a bit of a laugh, but he could understand it. Thank you, Xiao Li. Duguyan raised her head and thanked him seriously, but met Han Li's eyes. Suddenly, she realized that this scene seemed very familiar, and then she remembered that she had said the same thing to the boy in front of her just an hour and a half ago. And at that time, thinking of the previous things, her face suddenly turned red again, but she still forced herself to speak. No, I just thank you, and you are not allowed to mention the previous things to others. Did anything happen before? Han Li looked at her in confusion. Yes, nothing happened at all. Duguyan was stunned for a moment, then said quickly, but it was obvious that her trembling tone could not even deceive herself. So that's it. Goodbye. Han Li half turned his body and waved his right hand at her. You. Duguyan opened her mouth, wanting to call him, but she didn't know what reason to use. Don't worry, Sister Yan, I really didn't see anything. When Han Li walked to the edge of the platform, he suddenly turned around and said, and then he jumped down with a smile without waiting for Duguyan to respond. Go away, Duguyan looked at the empty platform, and was stunned for a moment, then she angrily punched the air in front of her a few times, as if she was punching someone, and then squatted down, buried her head in her knees, and didn't know what she was thinking. However, she herself didn't realize that when she was punching just now, she was no longer so embarrassed and angry, and her mind was full of the slightly presumptuous smile that someone showed before jumping down just now. Leaving the platform, Han Li walked directly in the direction of the master's practice. Just as he approached, he heard Dugubo's laughter, quickened his pace, and walked closer to take a look. The two were in a good mood and actually played chess here. Dugubo laughed just now because he had the upper hand. At this time, Guangling was still thinking hard with a dark face, and Dugubo was constantly trying to talk to him and interfere with his thoughts. Noticing Han Li's arrival, Dugubo's eyes lit up, and he decisively gave up harassing Guangling, and asked sideways, "Is it over? How is the effect?" Where is Yan Yan? It's over. Sister Yan's absorption of the secret medicine is not bad. Just this time, the upper limit of her third soul ring has increased by about 450 years. If she continues a few times and cooperates with the evolution of her martial soul, she should be able to absorb a soul ring of 5,000 years. Han Li replied with a smile. Sister Yan is resting now. Come on, Xiao Li, sit down, you've worked hard. Douluo pulled Han Li to his side, took out a chair, pressed him on it, and smiled with wrinkles on his handsome face. It's not hard, it should be. Han Li thought of the scene that happened before, and replied with some lack of confidence. Guangling, who was very familiar with him, heard that he was not sincere. He looked up at him, but did not find anything unusual. Then he lowered his head and thought about the next move. It should be said that Douluo's chess skills should be much better than Guangling's. Although Han Li couldn't understand the chess game, he could figure it out just by the sad look on his master's face when Douluo chatted with him and played chess while still killing. In the end, Guangling made an excuse to go to dinner and knocked over the chessboard manually, which finally made Douluo feel proud. The happy time is always short-lived. In this way, Han Li would go to the platform in the morning to help Douluo refine whale gum to strengthen his body, while the others would practice separately in the afternoon. Soon, a week passed. This morning, Douluo took whale glue. After Han Li tested it, he took the initiative to stop the service. Have you reached your limit? Douluo also noticed that this improvement seemed not as big as the previous ones, so he asked. Well, it's barely reached 4,200 years. Your body has temporarily become resistant to the secret medicine. Even if you continue to take it in the short term, there won't be much improvement. That's it. The excess power of the medicine is still hidden in your body. Prepare the martial soul to evolve, and it will be released together when the time comes. Han Li let go of Douluo's hand and said seriously. Okay, then it's up to you. When should we start? Douluo looked at Han Li with burning eyes, a little impatient. It's better to take a good rest today and let your body relax. Let's start again tomorrow. Han Li also exhaled and looked around. What? It seems like you are still a little reluctant to leave here. Douluo came over, bumped him with her shoulder, put her hands on his shoulders, put her head up, and blew into his ear while speaking. Don't make trouble. Han Li took her hand off his shoulder and patted her arm angrily, signaling her to calm down. Since that day, Douluo seemed to have liberated her nature, and she became more and more bold in front of him. From being a flirt with her mouth to a flirt with her hands, she didn't resist physical contact with him at all. No, she took the opportunity to tease him again. Chapter 81. It's not that I don't want to leave, but this is a blessed place. If it weren't too far away from Wuhan City, I really want to continue to stay here. Han Li responded casually. That's true. The environment here is good and suitable for cultivation. It's just a bit too remote and you can't see anyone. It's still not that convenient after all. Douluo smoothed his hair and nodded in agreement. Okay, you'd better take a good rest, use your soul power to warm up your body, and try to adjust your condition to the best. I'll go talk to Master and Senior about something. Han Li left a word and fell towards the bottom of the platform. After walking a few steps, he heard the familiar sound of Luo Ziyi and Douluo's voice. Recently, chess has become a regular program with 2 blocked accounts. Guangling's chess skills were terrible, but he still liked Douluo's chess game, and finally allowed the poisoned Douluo, who had been frustrated for a long time, to regain his place on the chessboard. Seeing Han Li coming, Douluo greeted him casually, "Come on, Xiao Li, let's see how I beat your master." Han Li smiled and did not say anything. Instead, he said, "Senior, if Sister Yan's physical condition is improved by taking medicine, she has reached her peak for the time being. Let's end it like this. It's time to prepare for the evolution of the martial spirit. Have you reached the limit? Okay, then it's up to you when to start the martial soul evolution." When Douluo heard what was going on, he dropped the chess pieces and turned around to ask. "Just tomorrow. Let Sister Yan rest a little longer today. You can tell her again in the afternoon. As for what she will evolve into tomorrow, it depends on luck." Han Li repeated the process that he had already decided. "Okay, no problem." Douluo happily agreed, stood up directly, glanced at Guangling who was still hesitating, and decisively said, "I admit defeat, I won this game, I'm going to see Yan Yan." Then in Guangling's days, he disappeared in a flash. Guangling woke up angrily and crushed the chess pieces into powder. Seeing that he was almost winning the game, his opponent just abandoned him and ran away. What the hell was going on? Seeing his master turning his angry gaze to himself, Han Li also hurriedly changed the subject. Master, please help me protect the law. I am ready to absorb the dew of seeing through the autumn water. Fine. Guangling sighed, and most of his resentment was gone. Improving his strength was the main thing. Go to your place, or just here. Guangling pointed to the big flat stone on one side. Just right here. Han Li thought for a moment, walked towards the big rock, and sat cross-legged on it. Then, he flipped his wrist, and a green grass appeared in his hand. Looking at the drops of water on the 3 snow-white leaves in the center of the herb, which looked like dew condensed in the morning, Han Li dropped each of them into his eyes without hesitation. As soon as the water drops fell into his eyes, Han Li felt a cool feeling coming from his eyes, which made him shiver. However, the cool feeling quickly faded away, and instead, his eyes were constantly being moistened as if they were soaked in warm water, giving him an indescribable sense of comfort, and subtle energy constantly interacting with his. His eyes fused, slowly improving his eyes. I don't know how long it took, but Han Li finally felt that all the energy in his eyes was absorbed by him, and he recovered from that mysterious state. Han Li opened his eyes. His eyes were brighter. The eagle eye in his right eye had started to operate independently at some point. One was black and the other was red, as if there was light flowing in his eyes. At this moment, Han Li felt that everything in front of him was much clearer than before. The dust in the air was completely visible, and it seemed that he could see the distance more clearly without using an eagle eye. He subconsciously activated his eagle eyes, and in the next second, he seemed to see the outside through the mountain, and the various elements in the air also appeared in front of him in the form of energy groups. Then he followed his intuition and closed his eyes again. Sure enough, the surrounding vision was still shown to him in his mind, even more complete and clear than with his eyes. There was a hint of joy on his face. He opened his eyes again and looked in Guangling's direction. Master, help me test my mental power. No problem, just come. Guangling also wanted to know how far his mental power was now, so he answered readily. Then Master, be careful, my soul bone is now 3 times stronger. After saying that, his mental power condensed into an invisible sharp cone and attacked Guangling fiercely. Guangling was not careless and put up a barrier in front of him, just for defense. Invisible ripples rippled in front of him and quickly disappeared. Han Li groaned, his brain feeling like a heavy hammer, and he shook his head for a while before standing up. Yes, the mental attack power you have shown has reached the entry-level of Soul Douluo, but considering the bonus of soul bones, your normal mental power level should be about the same as that of an ordinary soul saint. With a smile on her face, Guangling gave a very fair judgment. Soul saint? That's pretty good too. Han Li was not disappointed, but said with a smile. Hey, you kid is really not satisfied. You know, the biggest gap between Soul Saint and Soul Douluo is not soul power, but spiritual power. I don't know how many people have cultivated their soul power to level 79, but spiritual power, the power can only grow naturally, and it is stuck in the Soul Saint stage and cannot advance. You are a soul master. It is rare to reach the level of Soul Saint. Moreover, you are still young. Even if you do nothing next, your spiritual power will naturally grow. At most level 50, your spiritual power can enter the Soul Douluo level. This is something that others dare not dream of. Guangling walked to his side and hit him hard on the forehead. Why do you always like to hit my forehead? Han Li complained softly while covering his forehead. It's better to beat your apprentice early. Maybe when you are in your 20s, I can't beat you. I'll collect some interest in advance. Guangling hugged his shoulders and patted him, smiling very cunningly. By the way, judging from the situation just now, your 2 soul bones should have made considerable progress. Guangling asked with his head tilted. Well, the growth of mental power has led to a slight increase in age. I have just told you about the increase in mental attack, which has tripled. As for Hawkeye, the perspective ability mentioned earlier has been greatly enhanced, and the elemental vision has also been increased. As for the ability to see through the soul power running route, because of the increase in mental power, the consumption has become much smaller, but I have tried, and I still can't break the soul power defense on your body surface. But for the Soul Saint level, it should not be a big problem, but it will be noticed. Below the Soul Saint level, kill randomly. Han Li also showed a sinister smile. You kid is completely cheating in this battle. If the mental power is not as good as yours, when you use mental power to poke it when releasing soul skills, I am afraid that the soul power will go out of control on the spot. In addition, your mental attack can also add elemental effects. If you are unlucky, it is not impossible for the soul ring to explode. Guangling took a breath. Even if you don't play dirty, you can also attack the weak points of other people's soul defense. The advantage is too great. Guangling didn't dare to think about how soul masters of the same level would fight in front of this kid after he grows up. This is all because of your good teaching, isn't it? Han Li obediently pinched the master's shoulders and flattered him. That's right. Guangling accepted his flattery without blushing. For a while, the laughter of the two floated far away in the basin. Chapter 82. The next morning, Han Li woke up from his training as usual. Feeling the soul power still accumulating, he walked out of the stone chamber with satisfaction. Today is the time for Duguyan's martial soul to evolve, and it is also the day they are about to leave. After living in the wild for more than half a month, even with all kinds of preparations in advance, Han Li felt uncomfortable all over. He missed the soft big bed and the slightly annoying voices. After a simple wash and a casual meal, he staggered to the top of the platform. Sure enough, he was the last to arrive, and the three of them were already sitting there chatting. It was called chatting, but in fact, the two of them were relieving Duguyan's tension. She looked a little uneasy. Morning, Master, Senior, and Sister Yan. Han Li greeted the three. What's early? This old thing didn't dare to call you, and he went to pull me up early in the morning. It's almost been an hour. Guangling complained on the side. Han Li smiled, but didn't answer. He looked at Duguyan on the side. Coincidentally, Duguyan also cast her eyes over. Seeing him calm, the tension in her heart eased a lot. How is it? Sister Yan, are you ready? Han Li asked softly. Okay, let's start. Anyway, both sides can become stronger. I don't want to think about it. Duguyan took a deep breath and stood up. When it came to the beginning, she calmed down. Yes, that's it. You will definitely succeed. Han Li nodded at her, then turned his left hand, and a red ganodermalus item with leaves that he had picked in advance appeared in his hand, and handed it to Duguyan. I've said it before, there are no other requirements, just eat it all. Han Li stuffed the thing into her hand and gently squeezed it, as a way to cheer her up. Yet. Duguyan looked at the ganodermalus item in her hand, nodded to the three people, walked to the open space on the side, and sat down. After a pause, she put the ganodermalus item into her mouth. The 9th grade dragon ganoderma was not big, so she swallowed it directly after a few bites and began to circulate her own soul power. Almost at the moment when she mobilized her soul power, a blood flame emerged from her body and wrapped her whole body. The strong medicinal power turned into pure energy, enhancing her own soul power, and the aura on her body was visibly enhanced. This. Dugubo looked at Duguyan with some concern and paced a few steps in place. Don't worry, Senior, this is normal. You and Master are both too high in level. The fairy grass can only improve you to a limited extent. It is more about improving other aspects. Sister Yan is a great soul master, so it is normal to have abnormalities. Don't forget that when my martial soul evolved, the movement was much greater than this. Han Li rolled his eyes, not seeing that the clothes on his body were fine. Ha, I was anxious. Dugubo stopped and smiled embarrassedly. Time passed by bit, and the blood-red flame on Duguyan's body still did not weaken, but she exuded some weak dragon power. Senior, it's your turn to take action. Mobilize a little martial soul aura and try to touch Sister Yan to activate her martial soul instinct. The rest is to turn into a dragon or swallow a dragon. It depends on her. Han Li turned his head and looked at Dugubo, indicating that it was his turn to take action. Originally, this step was completed by him before, but after the last time he drew out the aura in his body, his recovery speed was much faster, and he could not find any traces a few days ago. It's impossible for him to provoke the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire again to help Duguyan evolve. Fortunately, Dugubo can also complete this task. Their martial souls are originally from the same source. In this regard, the effect is not worse than him doing it himself. Yet, Dugubo's expression became more serious, and he completed the martial soul possession in an instant. He carefully controlled his aura and approached Duguyan on the open space. At the moment of approaching, Duguyan seemed to sense his breath. A small green snake appeared from behind her, hissed and spit out its tongue, and re-entered her body. Seeing this, Douluo immediately retracted his martial soul and breathed a long sigh of relief. Okay, now we have finished all the help we can provide. The rest depends on Sister Yan herself. As his voice fell, the blood flame on Duguyan's body began to become unstable, and a little pain began to appear on her face, which made Douluo clench his fists tightly. In this way, another hour passed in the constant swaying of the blood flame. The blood flame on Duguyan's body suddenly stopped for a moment, and the next second, a strong soul power fluctuation spread out in all directions with her as the center. As the breath dissipated, Duguyan opened her eyes and stood up. She felt her own state, then smiled and waved to the three people. I succeeded. Seeing that she was awake, the three people quickly approached. Yan Yan, how do you feel? Also, what has your martial spirit evolved into? Come and show it to Grandpa. As soon as Douluo arrived, he looked up and down at his granddaughter's changes, and kept talking, hoping to know the changes as soon as possible. Well, how should I put it, Duguyan has changed a lot at this time. The short purple hair had turned dark red after the spirit evolution, just like the blood flame that had wrapped her before. Her eyes were still green, but they were not the emerald green before, but had become lighter and lighter, turning into light green. In general, the weird feeling was weakened a little, but it was more heroic. Grandpa, you asked so many questions at once, which one should I answer first? Duguyan was still Duguyan, and she acted like a spoiled child with her grandfather at the first time. Okay, then Grandpa won't ask any more, you take your time, take your time. Douluo was indeed a doting granddaughter demon, and he was no longer in a hurry. He happily touched his beard, which was equivalent to nothing, and nodded continuously at the changes in his granddaughter. Duguyan calmed down and slowly said, I don't know whether my spirit is a dragon or a snake, and the form of spirit possession seems to be different from before. As she spoke, she raised her right hand, and a mini energy snake appeared in her palm. Han Li and the other two noticed the change immediately, because beast spirits generally appear in the form of possession, some will show beast characteristics, some will not, and now, Duguyan's spirit appeared in the palm of his hand, still in the form of energy. Can you still possess normally? Han Li asked quickly. Yes. Hearing his words, Duguyan decisively dispersed the spirit in his right hand and performed normal spirit possession. Chapter 83. Possessed by a martial spirit. Duguyan shouted in a low voice as the mini energy snakes dispersed in his hands. As the light of the soul ring flickered, Duguyan's figure grew a little taller out of thin air, his body seemed to become a little softer, his legs turned into snake tails, and there was a hint of coldness in his narrow eyes. However, she was not standing on the ground at this time, but floating half a meter above the ground, with a pair of dark red energy wings appearing out of thin air behind her. Okay, okay. Douluo was overjoyed. Although he only saw the appearance of his granddaughter that was different from the previous one, he was sure that it was much stronger than the previous jade phosphorus snake spirit. It's really interesting. Guangling also looked at Douluo up and down, nodded with interest, and then turned to look at Douluo. Your granddaughter's evolution seems to be a little more advanced than yours. How do you say this? Douluo didn't care at all that Guangling used his granddaughter to attack him, but couldn't wait to ask. Well, it's understandable that you don't know. After all, although you have a family, you can actually be said to be from Yelazi. Guangling habitually insulted Douluo before continuing. According to the long-standing records of the Wuhan Palace, when a martial soul is possessed, especially flying martial souls, it does not count as soul skills. After being possessed by a soul, the wings can appear directly in the form of energy. Generally speaking, the quality is not bad, and at least it can touch the edge of a top-level martial spirit. As for those whose arms turn into wings after being possessed, or those who grow feathers, generally speaking, they are either very defective, or they can only fly, and there is no fighting ability. Like her, just possessing someone can. If you can fly off the ground independently, the quality of your martial spirit will definitely not be bad, and it will be among the best among the top martial arts. So, she made a lot of money. Guangling made a concluding speech. Have you directly entered the top martial arts range? Or are you at the forefront? Douluo looked at his granddaughter floating aside and smiled widely. Although his previous Jade Phosphorus Snake evolved into Jade Phosphorus Snake Queen and became a top-notch martial spirit, the flaws were too great. As for now, the influence of martial soul quality on him is not as great as before the title was banned. He is already very satisfied with being able to become a super Douluo. On the contrary, it was Duguyan. He had always been worried, fearing that his granddaughter would go before him. Now, at least it was not a problem for her to be banned, and he breathed a sigh of relief. While the two were communicating, Han Li was sizing up Duguyan after his martial soul evolved. Speaking of which, this was the first time he saw Duguyan's appearance after being possessed by martial soul. The last time he went to Tiandu Royal Academy, they were just doing daily training and did not reveal their martial souls. He took a curious look at his lower body, which had transformed from his legs into a snake's tail, wanting to find out what the principle was. It can be seen from the color of the snake's tail that her martial spirit has completely changed. Even the unique green scales of the jade phosphorus snake have turned into the same dark red as her hair. And because of the elemental control, he could clearly sense that Duguyan in front of him had a strong fire attribute aura, unlike Dugubo, who had almost no change, except that his soul power was mixed with a trace of purifying aura. When he looked at the snake tail so wildly, a blush flashed across Duguyan's face, but he did not release the spirit of possession. Instead, he floated closer to him, flicked the snake tail over, and brought it to his hand. Seeing the snake's tail falling to his hand, Han Li had a big question mark in his heart and subconsciously stroked it. With this movement, Duguyan's body trembled in midair, and he gave her a look of shame, immediately released his martial soul and fell back to the ground. Then Han Li watched helplessly as her snake tail turned back into her legs, and the most peculiar shoes were still on her feet, which was outrageous. Forget it, it's better to keep things under control in the fantasy world. An idea suddenly popped up in Han Li's head and he gave up further exploration. Mainly the current situation is not suitable. The two titled Douluo had finished their exchange and looked over again. By the way, Sister Yan, you try to possess me in energy form again. Han Li said with a normal expression. Yes, Yan Yan, try it quickly. Grandpa has never seen a beast spirit possessing such a form. Dugubo and Guangling also looked at Duguyan curiously and urged. Duguyan also wanted to give it a try and shouted possessed by the martial spirit again. This time, the situation was different from before. Duguyan himself had not changed much, or it could be said that his breath had only become colder. A dark red snake-shaped energy shadow appeared above her head. Several people looked closely, only to find that the shadow of the martial spirit no longer looked like a jade phosphorus snake. The martial soul shadow above her head was dark red in color, and there were also a pair of wings on her back, with sparks flickering in them. The snake's body is correct, but what's strange is its head. From the appearance, its head is no longer a triangular snake head, but more similar to a dragon, but it has no horns, and its eyes are still snake eyes, and it spits out letters from time to time, which looks very spiritual. And the strange thing is that although the shadow still has some coldness of snakes, from the martial spirit aura, it is also mixed with some majesty of dragons, making it difficult to tell whether it is a snake or a dragon. No wonder Duguyan said that she couldn't tell whether her martial spirit was a snake or a dragon. Her possessed state is somewhat similar to the state of being possessed by an incomplete martial spirit after the soul saint obtained the true form of the martial spirit. Guangling observed it for a while and said thoughtfully. After speaking, he also mobilized a breath, and also showed the shadow of a bow behind his back, which was regarded as a demonstration. Well, it does look very similar, but Yan Yan, can you use soul skills in this state? Dugubo asked. Can. After Duguyan finished speaking, the yellow soul ring above his head flashed, and a linear energy column containing explosive fire attributes and poison was spat out from the snake-shaped shadow above his head. The attack landed on a boulder not far away, and instantly tore it into pieces. The plants along the way were also ignited by the attack, and where the rocks were splashed, the plants quickly turned black. Completely lost its vitality. The power is not bad. Guangling looked at the damage she caused and commented casually. It is indeed good for the century-old number 1 soul skill to perform like this. Yan Yan, have your soul skills also changed? What about this poison? Dugubo was not as optimistic as him. After seeing the effects of the attack, he asked eagerly. Well, after the martial soul evolved, the soul skills also changed. The first soul skill is the attack I used just now. I call it lava beam. The lava beam spits out a line of fire-attributed linear energy from the mouth. It performs a long-range attack and comes with burning and poisonous effects. It consumes very little soul power and has good penetration effects. It can also be fired continuously and has no cooling time. As for the second soul skill, it can be regarded as an amplification skill. The power of the fire attribute is increased by 30%, but it can only last for half an hour and has a cooling time of 1 hour. Although Duguyan said she was sorry, everyone present could see her expression. Obviously, she was still very satisfied with her mutated soul skills. As for the poison, don't worry, Grandpa, my body is completely free of toxins now. This poison is considered to be the fire poison that comes with the martial soul's attack. The main attribute of the martial soul after evolution is fire, although, let's just think of it as a snake, it has poison glands, but unlike the jade phosphorus snake, its main attack method is fire elemental attack. Also, I can notice that after the martial soul evolves, it has a high resistance to poison. Even the poison that invades the body can be assimilated and absorbed by the fire attribute elements. And the most powerful thing is that all poisons originating from itself, both the martial spirit and myself, are completely immune to the poison and will never harm myself. So, Grandpa, you can rest assured that I will not be affected by poison in the future. Duguyan was very happy when he spoke. Yan, this is a great thing, but there is one thing you need to remember clearly. This new martial spirit of yours has no horns or feet. It must be a snake. How can it be a dragon? Are you right? When Dugubo heard that his granddaughter was no longer troubled by drugs, he put down his worries, but his thoughts also wandered. Well, Grandpa, you are right, this is a snake. Duguyan also nodded in agreement. She also felt that a snake was better. After all, she had been proud of the snake spirit for so many years, not to mention that her spirit possession mode was still a snake tail. Chapter 84. Whether it's a snake or a dragon, it's time for you to rename your martial spirit, Jade Phosphorus Snake. This seems a bit inappropriate no matter how you look at it. Guangling listened to the conversation between their grandfather and grandson and interrupted with a smile. That's true. The grandfather and grandson looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Otherwise, let Xiao Li help me come up with a new name. It's also his credit that my martial spirit can evolve. Grandpa, what do you think? Duguyan glanced at Han Li, who was watching silently, and turned to ask Dugubo for his opinion. Shall I let Xiao Li choose the name? That's fine, that's all. I'm afraid you won't be satisfied. Dugubo thought about Han Li's casualness when he changed the name of his martial spirit, and wanted to laugh a little. Guangling also pursed her lips, obviously suppressing a smile, and asked Han Li to choose a name. This was indeed an interesting proposal. Duguyan looked at the expressions of the two people and seemed to understand something, but she still waved her hands indifferently and looked at Han Li. Xiao Li, what do you think? What's the name of the new martial spirit? How about calling it Flame-Winged Spirit Snake or Flame-Winged Snake Spirit? Han Li also noticed the two elders' distrust of him in this regard, and decisively gave up the name Tanshi. Although he personally felt it was better, he still chose a more formal naming method. Fire-Winged Spirit Snake, Flame-Winged Snake Spirit, Spirit Snake, Snake Spirit, it seems pretty good. Duguyan read it twice, with a satisfied look on his face. It seems to be okay. Guangling and Dugubo looked at each other, and they both saw surprise in the eyes of the person opposite them. Han Li's previous naming standards were quite different from this one. Well, you will be called Flamewing Snake Spirit from now on, little guy. Duguyan shrunk the martial spirit into the palm of his right hand. He knew that the martial spirit would not reply at all, but he still happily said to it and picked something in front of its eyes with his left hand. By the way, Sister Yan, you said before that after the martial soul evolves, you can realize that as long as it comes from your own poison, the martial soul and you yourself can be directly immune to it, right? Han Li suddenly thought of something and looked at Duguyan who was teasing Wuhan. That's right, that's right. Duguyan nodded without knowing why. Then are you going to play drugs in the future? Han Li asked the most important question. Just a little bit, my martial spirit is poisonous now anyway. Duguyan glanced at his and Dugubo's expressions before speaking cautiously. She expected to encounter opposition, but she saw the two of them nodded at the same time, with no intention of stopping her. As everyone knows, the three people's thoughts are not on the same channel at all. When Dugubo was here, he subconsciously thought of Han Li's Yuxiang Kiluo Immortal. Anyway, Yan Yan would follow him from now on. What he taught Duguyan since childhood was actually some poisonous weeds, poisonous insects, and of course how to use poison. Now that I am immune to my own toxicity, it doesn't matter if I continue to do this as a hobby. It's guaranteed anyway. As for Duguyan, she has been influenced by Douluo since she was a child. She likes to use poison. Although she was a little scared because of her grandfather's incident, now that her martial soul has evolved, she doesn't feel it's a big deal anymore. When she plans to add soul rings later, she will give priority to fire-attributed soul beasts. Of course, it would be better if they can bring some poison, since they can be immune anyway. As for Han Li, he was simply confirming the situation. After all, he was already prepared to help her obtain the 8 spider spears. If Duguyan gave up, he would have to reconsider whether to change the candidate. After all, this is also a growth-oriented external soul bone. If you don't use poison, it would be a bit of a waste. But since Duguyan is still planning to play with poison, there is no problem. Regardless of the immunity of the martial spirit, with the 8 spider spears here, these are not problems. Okay, now that things are over, it's time for us to leave. Guangling saw that there was nothing more he wanted to say, so he took the initiative to propose. Well, it's really time to leave. After staying here for so long, I feel a little out of touch with human society. Han Li also looked around and nodded in agreement. Then let's go. There's nothing to deal with anyway. I'm tired of staying here. It's impossible for ordinary people to come in here. When I go back out, I will strengthen the poison array to make sure that even mosquitoes can't fly in. Douluo couldn't help but urge, he came here often, every time to suppress the toxicity. Now that he has finally got rid of the trouble, he is still willing to stay in the mountains. If Duguyan's problem hadn't been resolved before, he might have left on the same day he recovered. By the way, Yan, you are already at level 30. Would you like Grandpa to take you with you to get the soul ring? You should be able to withstand 5,000 years of soul rings now, right? Douluo first looked at Duguyan with a smile, then turned to look at Han Li, and asked him the last question. Should be no problem. Han Li had just tested it, and Duguyan's current physical endurance limit was about 5,500 years. Let me think about whether there are any fire-type snakes near the sunset forest that are suitable for Yan. When Douluo heard his answer, he was already thinking about what soul beast to hunt. Don't worry, senior. If you believe me, you might as well wait a little longer. Anyway, Sister Yan is going back to Wuhan City with us, and I also need to go to the Stardo Forest to obtain the 3rd soul ring. At this point, he suddenly paused before continuing. Sometimes, if you wait a little, you may have a better choice. This is the guidance from fate. When Han Li spoke, he still had a smile on his face, but his temperament was different from the past, and he looked like a charlatan. It was the first time that Douluo and Duguyan saw him like this. They couldn't help but cast their eyes on Guangling, but they saw that Guangling's expression was very serious. Seeing the two of them looking at him, he nodded heavily at them. They didn't know, but Guangling seemed to recall that when Xiao Li threw books on the carriage to find the fairy grass, he had the same expression, but it was not very obvious at that time, and he was not so weird. This time, maybe there will be a big harvest again. Thinking of Han Li's weird luck, Guangling suddenly had an idea in his mind. Also, after Han Li talked to him about the matter last time, he secretly observed him for a few days. He was indeed very normal, and he didn't seem to be eroded. There was no difference from his previous performance. Then, the criminals and fallen soul masters that Xiao Li asked to prepare to absorb soul rings should not be related to Duguyan, right? This? Maybe it's Xiao Li's secret? Guangling's mind was working quickly, connecting all the previous details, and thinking of a suitable reason. Well, okay, let's not hunt souls first, let's go back first, let's go back to the city and have a good rest. Douluo licked his lips dryly and took the initiative to answer. He noticed something was wrong. Why did the performance of the master and apprentice seem a bit weird? Okay, let's go. Han Li on the side spoke again. Guangling and Douluo looked back at the same time, but found that he had returned to normal and looked at them innocently, as if asking what was wrong. Only Duguyan looked at the three people in confusion, not knowing what happened. Why did Grandpa and Senior Guangling act a little weird after Xiao Li said that he was not in a hurry to get the soul ring immediately? Isn't it just that Xiao Li speaks the same as those fortune-telling scammers in the city? What's the matter? When she fools people, she occasionally does this. It's really a fuss. Chapter 85. At noon, the four finally walked out of the sunset forest and came to an open area. Looking back at the forest behind them and the endless plain in front of them, the four did not speak, but closed their eyes, slightly raised their heads, and felt the touch of the breeze and the sun. After a long time, several people opened their eyes one after another, looked at each other, and smiled. Finally, I feel like I'm back to reality. The one who spoke was Douluo. Although she had stayed in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire for the shortest time, she was the most shocked. In just half a month, she felt like several years had passed. When she went in, she was Douluo, level 26, with the martial soul, the green phosphorus snake, and was poisoned. Grandpa was old and frail, and he might die at any time. When she came out, she was level 30. After obtaining the spirit ring, she could upgrade several more levels. Her martial soul also became the top martial soul, the flame wing snake spirit, and there was no need to worry about the poison. Not only did her grandfather not die, but he also regained his youth and his strength improved a little. In this short period of time, her life seemed to have been completely changed, and everything around her was moving in a good direction, and this was just because she met a person. Thinking of this, she looked at Han Li beside her and smiled sweetly. Han Li noticed her actions, looked back, and wondered what she was thinking, but still quickly smiled back. This is his secret book. Although he didn't know what happened, it was always right to smile. Sure enough, after receiving his feedback, Douluo felt better, and his eyes narrowed with laughter. The two titled Douluo on the side naturally noticed the interaction between the two, but didn't say anything. They didn't get involved in the affairs between children, so as not to be disliked by others. Okay, Xiao Li, Yan Yan, since you are out, you should celebrate appropriately. At this point, Douluo paused, took out a pocket watch from his arms, and confirmed the time. If we go back to the city now, we will be hungry. You two should prepare the things for the barbecue. When I came out just now, I saw a good ingredient not far from here. You prepare it, and Guangling and I will go to grab it. After saying this, he pulled Guangling, who was confused, to the side. What kind of ingredient requires 2 titles to obtain? Guangling wanted to refuse, but seeing Douluo winking at him frantically, he did not resist and let him pull him to the side. Grandpa and the others are really weird, right? Watching the two walk away, Douluo walked behind Han Li, hugged his neck, and lay on his back, saying in a slightly intimate way. Hearing her words, Han Li's mouth corners curved slightly, but he did not refute her, but answered, well, a little bit. Unlike Douluo, his mental power is now comparable to that of a soul saint, and he has the blessing of an external soul bone, and he habitually keeps exploring the surroundings, so he naturally noticed Douluo's abnormal behavior. If he guessed correctly, Douluo should have been frightened by his previous performance and Guangling's reaction, and he went to understand the situation. After all, after communicating with his master last time, he realized that some things must be covered up to serve as an excuse for his foresight. And the secret mentioned by Guangling happened to be used as an excuse by him, so he would express it in other forms appropriately. Therefore, this is why he deliberately pretended to be a charlatan and showed an abnormal scene when he left the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire before. Well, of course, he was exposed so obviously, and there was also a reason that the other 2 people present, except Guangling, had sworn the martial spirit oath. After all, these 2 people will be around him in the future, and he can't always have the right reason. Instead of finding excuses every time, it is better to turn the secret into a specific action. There are many strange things in Douluo continent, and he is not bad. When they arrived at the Stardo Great Forest, after seeing the power of the secret, they naturally no longer doubted the value of it. Just when he and Douluo had almost finished preparing the food, the 2 people who had just left came over with a bird. Guangling was no different from when he left. He just nodded to Han Li, indicating that the problem was not big and he had helped to solve it. Douluo looked at Han Li every once in a while, as if he was looking at some rare animal, but he was no longer as strange as before, and was more relaxed. The meal, well, was not very good. In the end, Han Li took out the remaining ingredients from his wristband to finish it. The main reason was that Douluo was really not attentive. Not only was the bird he shot very small, but the meat was also a bit dry, which caused Douluo to complain a few times and said that she would never believe his food recommendations again. After eating, the 4 of them set out on the road back to Tiandu city again. Guangling and Han Li did not want to reveal their identities and attract attention, so the four of them parted outside the city. Douluo also left Han Li his address and a token to find him, saying that he would wait for his news, and then took Douluo, who was still preparing to say something, and walked into the city first. Okay, let's go back to the spirit hall first. When the time comes, you go and rest directly. I will go to Sarath to ask about the news of the blue shadow divine eagle, and see how he has prepared the people. If possible, let him send them there in advance. Seeing that the grandfather and grandson in front of them had disappeared, Guangling and Han Li disguised themselves and walked into the city. Okay, then I'll trouble you, master. Han Li did not refuse. After relaxing, he just wanted to go back and take a good bath, throw himself into the soft big bed, and sleep soundly. Also, Douluo asked you about your news before, and I revealed a little bit. Anyway, you don't have to worry about this problem. Guangling walked a few steps and said with his head tilted. Well, whatever you say is fine. Han Li waved his hand indifferently. Looking at him looking like I want to sleep, Guangling smiled and didn't say anything, but just slightly quickened his pace. Returning to the Wuhan Hall, Han Li said goodbye to his master and went straight to the room. After taking a comfortable bath, sending the maid out and telling her not to disturb him, he fell head first on the bed and fell asleep. The next day, Han Li missed the morning exercise for a long time. It was not until noon when his stomach was rumbling that he got up from the bed. After washing and eating, he felt that he was finally alive. After resting for a while, he walked towards Guangling's room. After knocking on the door and getting a response, Han Li pushed the door open and walked in. Guangling was reading the information in his hand. When he saw Han Li coming, he nodded and continued to read the content above. He pushed the information in his hand to Han Li until he finished reading it completely. Take a look. The approximate range of the green shadow divine eagle has been determined. Well, I also paid attention to the soul beast of the little girl for her and found it out together. The soul beast she needs is not difficult to find. Oh, by the way, the information about the human-faced demon spider you mentioned before is also on it. It was originally recorded. I won't go into details. You can read it yourself. As for the things you asked me to prepare before, I have set off this morning. According to your requirements, 3 people were selected, 2 soul lords and 1 soul lord. Such people are not easy to find. Most of them were killed directly. It is good luck to have 3 alive. Guangling briefly introduced the situation. Chapter 86. Thank you, Master. Han Li brought the information in front of him and raised his hand towards Guangling. Okay, don't smile at me, I'm afraid I can't help but slap you. Guangling shook her body pretending to be uncomfortable, with an expression of disgust. When are you going to Stardew Forest? Guangling asked Han Li, who was reading the information. Just these 2 or 3 days. I'll go to Sister Yan's place later and confirm the time with them. Han Li answered without raising his head. Sister Huanyan, you are calling her very intimate. I'll see what you tell Xiu'er when you go back. Maybe you won't come to me and your uncle to cry to me then. Guangling teased. That won't happen. Don't worry. If you really have such a leisurely mind, why not find me a master wife? By the way, Ling Yuan Douluo from the Elder Hall is pretty good, and he is younger than you. I heard that there are many people pursuing him, but relying on with your face and your current cultivation level, you are still very competitive. If you can manage her, I will give you that coxcomb phoenix sunflower as a betrothal gift. Maybe then you will marry a phoenix Douluo and give me a junior brother, complete with ice and fire, and follow the same path as me. I can still help a little bit. In a few decades, one of the 4 Douluo sects will be proud, and the reputation will shock the mainland. What do you think? While talking, Han Li had already written down the information, looked up at the master, and joked. It was just a casual joke, but Han Li saw a flash of emotion on Guangling's face. Ha, this is because I was persuaded, there is something going on. Han Li was having fun watching it. After a long time, Guangling came back from his reverie and found that his apprentice was staring at his face, pondering his expression. He couldn't help but blush, slapped the table with his hand, and pointed in the direction of the door. Go, 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 you evil disciple, you actually look at the master's excitement. Get out of here and find your little snake. Just let me know when you have set a time. I have something to do these days, so don't come here if you have nothing to do. Don't come if you have anything to do with me. Han Li laughed wildly in his heart, but did not dare to show it too obviously on his face. Seeing the somewhat annoyed master, he quickly stood up and ran towards the door. When he was leaving and closing the door, he poked his head in again. Master, don't be embarrassed. I'll keep the coxcomb, phoenix, and sunflower for you. When you get back, just let me know if you need it, and I'll send it to you overnight. Boom. A book hit the door that was closed in time. Han Li saw that the situation was not good and ran away long ago. Guangling looked at the closed door, laughed dumbly, shook her head, slowly stood up and picked up the book again. However, she could not calm down the state of mind that was disturbed by Han Li's words. Outside the Wuhan Palace, Han Li, who rejected Rosago's request to follow him, walked alone on the streets of Tiandu Imperial City. He was in a very good mood. Speaking of which, this was also the first time he and Guangling succeeded in a fight since they became master and apprentice, and they also managed to escape. After running out, he finally came back to his senses. It must not have been his few words that stirred up the master's heart. Judging from Guangling's reaction, it was because he had evil thoughts for a long time, but for some unknown reason, he never acted on them. It wasn't until today that he accidentally said it that he would have such a big reaction. Otherwise, with Guangling's usual style, he would have chased him out and beaten him. He didn't believe that with his current strength, he could successfully escape from Guangling's clutches. Forget it, let's wait until we get back. Anyway, with the title Douluo's age, he won't be short of this for a while and a half. Shaking his head and putting his thoughts to the back of his mind, he identified the direction and headed towards Douluo's house. After knocking on the door politely, Han Li handed over the token that Douluo had prepared for him, and was then greeted respectfully by the servant. In the living room in the front yard, after receiving the hot tea from the servant, Han Li learned that Douluo had gone out in the morning. He nodded and asked them to call Douluo, and then observed the scenery in the yard boredly. Well, there is no scenery, it is just a very ordinary mansion. Even because Douluo's family is sparse, there are not even many servants. Before he could wait for long, only about 3 minutes, a girl in a light green dress ran out from the back of the living room with a gust of fragrance and hung directly on him. Why are you here so early? Douluo was obviously slightly taller than Han Li now, but she was like a little girl, clinging to him and refusing to get up. Morning? It's already afternoon. Han Li said with a smile. I don't care, it's still early anyway. Douluo hit him with his head unreasonably. Okay, so it's still early? If not, can I come back tomorrow? Han Li was about to take a step, but Douluo pushed him back again and pushed him to the seat. Okay, get up first. Your grandfather might be back soon. If he sees you like this, he won't beat me. Han Li pushed Douluo on him. I don't know. Guangling Mian has told me a long time ago that he took the initiative to introduce me to you as his fiancé, and he obviously hasn't asked me yet. Douluo replied angrily, but still got up from him and sat on a chair nearby. Han Li smiled awkwardly and did not answer. It was not easy for him to answer this question. Seeing that he didn't answer, Douluo rolled her eyes at him, but didn't continue to dwell on this topic. By the way, when Senior left, did you say what he was doing out there? Han Li took a sip of the hot tea before looking at Douluo. No, he just told the servants and went out. I didn't know until I woke up. Douluo played with her hair hanging down on the right side with her fingers and replied lazily. Did he tell you when we would set out to get the spirit ring? Han Li admired Douluo's posture and asked. He said it depends on your arrangement. Anyway, he will accompany us to the Xingda Great Forest and then return to Tiandu City. Douluo said here, suddenly thought of something, let go of her hair, sat up again, and lay on the table between the two of them, and spoke mysteriously. Xiao Li, is everything Grandpa said true? You are very lucky, and sometimes you can predict some things that are beneficial to yourself and your close ones in advance. Well, that's it, but it's not under my control. Han Li raised his eyebrows. It seems that the master has made some changes to him. So, you were making a prophecy when you were talking in a mysterious way that day. Douluo lowered her voice, but could not hide the excitement in her tone. Mysterious, Han Li couldn't help but have a black line on his forehead when he heard her adjective. What a weird description. He obviously had a look and a hollow voice that was neither happy with things nor sad with himself. Forget it, don't argue with them, they don't understand the mysterious power from another world. Hey? Then what? Han Li looked at Miss Douluo with amusement, wanting to see if she had any questions. Chapter 87. Then, Han Li found that the cool Miss Douluo's face suddenly turned red and became a little shy. After waiting for a long time, he heard a sentence that was only slightly louder than the sound of a mosquito. So, since you have predicted something related to me, I am also yours, your close person, right? Han Li's expression froze on his face, and his expression immediately became wooden. It really deserves to be the love continent. The words "the secret of heaven cannot be revealed" were on his lips, but he didn't expect the style to suddenly change. Douluo, what is your usual style? Don't you want to ask me what I predicted? Why are you shy? Don't you know that I like that taste? Douluo, you really disappoint me. It seems that you have to be trained well in the future, otherwise homogeneity will make you lose your competitiveness. Of course, although Han Li thought so in his heart, he answered without hesitation, of course it counts. Sure enough, after hearing his answer, Douluo's expression suddenly became happy, and her movements returned to normal. After throwing him a wink, she sat back in her seat lazily. This time it was Han Li's turn to be unable to help. After thinking for a long time, he turned around and asked, Sister Yan, don't you want to ask what I have predicted? Douluo responded with a sweet smile and a sickening word. No need, anyway, you won't hurt me, right, little brother? Brother. She also deliberately dragged out the last few words, combined with her slender figure and charming expression, to maximize her own advantages. If nothing else, at this moment, Han Li was sunk, and his heart was refreshed. He finally felt the power of the love continent. Well, there is nothing wrong with the love continent, provided that he is the one being loved. Soon, he regained his sanity and remembered the purpose of coming here. Sister Yan, since the senior asked me to decide, let's do it the day after tomorrow. It just so happens that I also need to repurchase some things, and I need some time to prepare the supplies. Purchasing, do you want me to go with you? When it comes to this, Douluo also became interested. Her best friend is still in the academy, and her current situation is not suitable for her to go there directly to see her, so she can only stay at home. Well, that's no problem, but do you want to consider wearing a veil? Although your appearance has changed, your face has not changed at all. I don't want to go out shopping with you and be spotted by the royal family and the Seven Treasures glazed sect. Han Li pointed at her face and made some small suggestions. No problem, then wait for me. Lingling just gave me a few veils before, but I haven't tried them yet. I'm going to change my clothes. Well, you have to accompany me to buy some clothes. After my hair color changed, many clothes don't look good on me. Well, just buy a size bigger for clothes. You also have to consider the changes after absorbing the soul ring. Forget about cosmetics. Grandpa's ones are better. Thinking about it, if you hadn't come to remind me today, I would be exhausted tomorrow. Douluo counted on her fingers and began to calculate what she needed to buy, and made a plan in a short time. Okay, then you go. It's just right. I also need to buy some more clothes. Han Li then remembered that he also needed to buy clothes. The clothes that Sister Xiu prepared for him before might become tights again after he absorbed the soul ring. Then wait for me. I'll be there soon. Douluo, who was inspired to shop, shouted at him and went to the back house, leaving him alone in the hall. Fortunately, Douluo was quite fast. In less than 5 minutes, she changed into a black dress and walked out of the backyard with a veil. Okay, let's go. She smiled and took Han Li's arm and dragged him out. It was not until 8 o'clock in the evening that Han Li returned to the spirit hall. He had clearly slept until noon before getting up, but he didn't look very energetic at this time, and was a little depressed. He still underestimated the power of shopping with girls. He couldn't figure out how he, a soul master with a physical strength comparable to that of a soul emperor, lost to Douluo in this regard. Fortunately, he bought things quickly enough, so he didn't have to consider the value too much. He just had to buy the expensive ones. He ran to a restaurant again. After dinner, he decisively rejected Douluo's invitation to go shopping tomorrow. He used the excuse of having a practice mission, agreed to meet outside the city the day after tomorrow, sent her home, and slipped away. Well, when I came back just now, Master didn't seem to be there. Did he go to see Qianrongxiu again? It's very likely. After all, they are leaving soon, and they really need to say goodbye. The relationship between the two of them should be good. After all, this is the kind of relationship that can make Master take the initiative to ask for the fairy grass. I don't know what changes will happen to the angel's martial spirit after taking the fairy grass, and whether there will be flame patterns on the wings, Han Li thought divergently. After a while of being in a daze, Han Li came back to his senses. Forget it, why think so much, practice. He gave up thinking directly. Today's practice time has not been made up yet, and now is not the time to slack off. The next day, nothing happened. Guangling, who had agreed not to let Han Li look for him, took the initiative to knock on his apprentice's door early the next morning and asked if the time had been set. His expression was no different from usual, as if he had forgotten what happened yesterday. After learning that he would leave tomorrow, he disappeared again, and Han Li did not go out, spending an ordinary day. Early in the morning on the third day, before it was completely bright, the luxury car that had not been seen for a long time quietly left Tiandu city. After picking up two figures outside the city and getting into the car, they sped off in the direction of the Star Forest. In the carriage, Douluo lay on a comfortable rocking chair and looked sideways at Han Li. You guys are really enjoying yourself. No wonder you told us that we don't need to prepare a carriage. It turns out you have such a useful tool for traveling. Senior, if you like it, I'll have someone deliver one to your house later. This thing isn't worth much. If you don't leave Tiandu, I'm afraid you'll see something like this on the street in another month and a half. The carriage appeared. Han Li casually opened a bottle of fresh juice and handed it to Douluo, without looking back. Okay, then I'm welcome. Douluo leaned back and the rocking chair began to rock on its own. He narrowed his eyes in contentment and stopped talking, seeming to be enjoying this rare comfort. How long will it take for us to reach the Stardo Forest? Douluo held the juice and tasted it carefully, pursed her lips, feeling the sweetness and fragrance of the fruit in her mouth, and turned around to ask. Her first 2 soul rings were obtained in the Sunset Forest. She had never been to the Stardo Forest and was still a little curious about it. About half a month. Han Li recalled the time when he came and answered casually. That means it will take a month at the earliest before we can get to Wuhan City. After hearing his answer, Douluo didn't know what he was thinking and muttered in a low voice. What's wrong? Han Li closed the book in his hand, turned around and noticed her emotional change. It's nothing. I didn't expect that it would be my first time to travel far away. I would have to walk for a month just on the road. Douluo raised his head and smiled at him, indicating that he was fine. What could she do? She just couldn't wait to see where he lived. Chapter 88. Perhaps because this road has been traveled once, the speed this time was much faster than the last time. With Rosago's increasingly proficient driving skills, they had arrived at the edge of the Star Forest in just 11 days. Stepping into the noisy town again, I also enjoyed the same treatment as last time. After all, such high-end and peculiar-looking carriages are rare to begin with, and it wasn't long since they last left. People who have been hanging around here all year round have good memories and eyesight, and they will stay away as soon as they see the carriage coming. Just like last time, Rosago was still allowed to move freely, and the 4 of them arrived at Wuhandian station here. Without any nonsense, Guangling came to the gate of the station and directly showed his elder token, and the 4 of them were respectfully welcomed in. Did Salas send the person I wanted? Guangling asked straight to the point. Sir, I have sent it here this morning and it is still under guard. Do you want me to take you to see it now? The resident leader who replied lowered his head and did not even dare to look at their faces. He didn't want to know the inside story, and he didn't dare to know the inside story. He just hoped that the adult could take the 3 people away quickly. After the handover was completed, nothing would happen to him. Very well, just take us there. Guangling was very satisfied with his answer. Yes, please invite some adults to follow me. Hearing his words, the deacon breathed a sigh of relief and immediately turned around to lead the way. When he came to a completely enclosed stone room, he stopped. Sir, the person is inside. This is the key. My confidentiality level is not high enough, so I can only ask you to go in by yourself. Well, okay, give me the stuff. Guangling also knew the rules, took the key, and waved for him to leave. Then, he turned to look at the 3 people around him. Okay, let's go in together. This is... Douluo and Douluo were still a little confused, wondering who Guangling was taking them to meet. It's just 3 criminals and a fallen soul master. Don't worry about it. I don't know what their use is. This is what Xiao Li wanted before. Guangling pointed to Han Li, who had never spoken since arriving here. I have a hunch that when we go into the forest this time, it's best to take them with us. They might be able to come in handy. Han Li shrugged, spread his hands towards the two of them, and replied very bachelorly. Okay, don't worry about so much. Just take them with you. You will know when the time comes. It's just 3 people anyway, so it won't affect the speed of action. Guangling glanced at Douluo and motioned for him to follow him in. Fine. Douluo glanced at the 2 little ones and took the initiative to follow them. He couldn't rely on the 2 of them to lead others. Han Li and Douluo did not follow, but chose to wait outside. Bringing along unrelated people can also be beneficial to obtaining the soul ring. Douluo looked puzzled. No matter what she thought, she couldn't imagine what effect it would have. They couldn't just throw them away as shields when they encountered soul beasts. They were followed by 2 titled Douluo. In particular, she also knew that Lightling Douluo was now at level 98, and even if the legendary 100,000-year soul beast appeared, they wouldn't need someone to cut off their queen before they could leave. Who knows? Han Li did not answer her question. Anyway, if everything went well, she would know it soon. Revealing it in advance would reduce the surprise, so why bother? In just a few words, Guangling and Douluo walked out carrying 3 people. Han Li and Douluo looked at the 3 people in their hands and found that their soul power and mouths were sealed by unknown means. In the hands of the 2 sealed people, they could not even struggle. Perhaps sensing the crisis, although the 3 of them could not speak, they all stared at the 2 men with fierce eyes. Han Li and Douluo had no doubt that once their bonds were released, the 3 of them would attack them without hesitation. It's a pity that the 2 of them don't care. Let's not talk about Han Li. The education that Douluo has always received is that she cannot do evil, but she does not need to be soft when encountering evil people. What's more, she just heard Guangling clearly say, this the 3 of them are criminals and fallen soul masters. Immediately, Douluo didn't want to be outdone and stared back, with the intention of killing one of them if they disagreed. The 3 of them finally became honest for the time being. You also have a capable person in Wuhan Palace. Just mixing some simple medicines and taking them regularly can make soul masters below the Soul King unable to resist. I really want to get to know him. Douluo threw the person in his hand and said with interest. Hearing his words, Guangling and Han Li both had strange smiles on their faces. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with what I said? Douluo frowned, as if he didn't understand why they had such expressions. Senior, maybe you really know him. Have you forgotten that Douluo is the elder in charge of punishment in our Wuhan Palace? This medicine is one of his research results. Han Li held back his laughter and whispered a reminder. Douluo's hand stopped for a moment, and the person he was holding fell face down on the uneven ground, letting out a muffled groan. I forgot. It's better not to know it. This medicine is actually just like that. Give me some time and I can recover. Maybe the effect will be better. Douluo bent down and lifted the person up again, said something harsh, and took the lead to take steps outside. Let's go, let's go. The soul beast won't wait for anyone. Let's go in early to avoid being overtaken by others. Behind him, the 3 of them suppressed their laughter, looked at each other, and hurriedly followed. At the edge of the Star Forest, Han Li and Douluo walked through the town together and entered the forest. After they had walked a certain distance, they saw the 2 elders waiting in front. It's not about anything else, it's mainly because when they came in, too many people saw the Wuhan Palace mark on the carriage. Although it was not impossible to swagger through the market with people in their hands, no one dared to say anything wrong. However, considering the basic issue of reputation, Guangling and Lonely Bo chose to fly in from the air together in advance. Okay, Xiao Li, it's still the same old rules. Now your strength has increased a lot, and you know the content of the intelligence. Next, you and the little girl choose how to move forward. Douluo and I are only responsible for protecting you. Safety. In this regard, Guangling is as straightforward as ever. No problem, Master. Han Li also answered decisively. His current strength is enough to survive even in the mixed zone, and he still lacks real combat experience. Even if Guangling doesn't say anything, he is still going to take advantage of this time to practice. Okay, that's it, let's go. After saying that, Guangling gave Douluo a look, and the 2 of them disappeared from in front of them with the 3 hostages in hand. Chapter 89. Let's go, Sister Yan, it depends on the two of us. Han Li turned his head and glanced at Duguyan, who was a little excited since he stepped into the forest. Let's go, just in time. I also want to try how my strength will be after the martial soul evolves. Before, my soul skills could only assist. Even in battles, I could only rely on the poison of the martial soul to slowly kill the opponent. But now, I am also an attack-type battle soul master. While Duguyan was speaking, the martial spirit shadow and wings had appeared behind her, and the flame-winged snake spirit was hissing and spitting out the snake letter, which seemed to demonstrate her fighting intention. Okay, until we reach the mixed zone, I will rely on you, Sister Yan, for protection. Han Li raised the two swords in his hands that had been completely dimmed by his light, and made a movement to sheath them. No problem, then you have to follow me closely. Duguyan blinked at him and took the lead in taking steps forward. Han Li smiled, followed closely behind her, and the two of them moved deeper together. After going deep for a while, Han Li, who had not stopped mentally monitoring the surroundings, felt extremely tired. Duguyan's performance in field combat was not ideal. This was the personal evaluation given by teacher Han Li. In just 1 hour, Han Li couldn't help but have black lines all over his head as he followed her. Relying on the strength after the evolution of her martial soul, she is still strong in this peripheral area. In addition, the first soul skill after the mutation is activated faster. On the way forward, Duguyan was beating one by one, and the caterpillars passing by were all killed by her. Burn it and it's done. Although she did not kill these weak soul beasts directly and abided by the unspoken rules that were agreed between soul masters, there were not 10 but 8 low-level soul beasts with injuries to their legs and abdomen. Along the way, Han Li they all came smelling the smell of burning and blood. Okay, Sister Yan, stop. If you keep walking like this, I'm afraid we will be surrounded by a large number of soul beasts if we enter the mixed zone. Han Li promptly stopped her disgusting behavior. Ah, okay, I'll stop now, I'm a little too excited. Her excitement was interrupted, and she finally realized what she had done along the way, and stopped her behavior with some embarrassment. Okay, let's move on. Your martial spirit has a relatively high vision. For the time being, it's up to you to be alert to the movements around you. If weak spirit beasts appear, drive them away. We need to speed up. Han Li looked at the sky and found that if they moved faster, they could still resist the camp he created last time and save a lot of effort. Good. After calming down, Duguyan finally performed to her normal level and began to recall all the wild survival knowledge she had received, and the two began to move forward quickly. On the way, after entering the mixed zone, they encountered 2 more attacks. This time, with Han Li's early warning and Duguyan also putting aside his playful thoughts, the battle ended extremely quickly. After the martial soul evolved, the fire element attached to Duguyan's martial soul was already powerful. In addition, the first soul skill was fast and could be fired continuously. Without Han Li's help, she exerted considerable combat effectiveness on her own. A shadow leopard that was around 1,300 years old, and a dark crow that was around 1,800 years old. They suffered a big loss at the hands of Duguyan when they first met. They were maimed immediately and their mobility was damaged, and was subsequently bombarded by continuous lava beams. Duguyan only ran a little and easily defeated the 2 soul beasts, which also made her clearly realize how big the gap between her former self and her current self. Up to now, she has only used her first soul skill. Well, they're not bad, but they're still too weak. They can't test anything, and they can't put any pressure on you. Han Li poured a basin of cold water on the side, fearing that she would revert to the same state as when she first entered the forest. I know, you don't need to remind me. Duguyan gave him a look. On the way here, she heard Guangling talk about Han Li's achievements. When he had just reached level 20 and had not yet obtained the soul ring, he could handle more than 2,000 people on his own. It only took a little more time to kill the year-old spirit beasts without any damage. She was already at level 30 now, and just winning against a 1,500-year-old soul beast alone was nothing. A month ago, she might have been complacent about this, wishing that the entire Tiandu Royal Academy would publicize such achievements for her, but now, she just wants to be stronger so that she can keep up with Han Li pace. Although, even now, she has never seen Han Li take action in person, but just the aura leaking out when possessed by the martial soul suppressing her martial soul, and the black first ring of 10,000 years are enough to prove his power. Not to mention, except for hearing that sword Douluo can fly with a sword, she has never seen any weapon soul master who can create his own flying soul skill before he reaches the 3rd level. She doesn't know if Sword Douluo's flying ability is a soul skill. On the mainland, soul masters' abilities are kept secret. Moreover, after obtaining the soul ring this time, she would definitely be able to see Han Li take action, and she was looking forward to it. Looking at Douluo, who didn't know what he was thinking after talking to him, Han Li stretched out his hand and waved it in front of her eyes, and then looked at the darkening sky. Okay, come with me. The camp ahead should be treated a little before it can be used again. After speaking, he adjusted his direction slightly and took Douluo towards the last camp location. The location of the camp was not too far away. According to his estimation, it was only less than 10 minutes walk. The sky in the forest darkened a little faster than the outside world. Of course, this was also due to the lush trees around them. They had only been on the road for 3 minutes, and the darkness seemed to have deepened a degree compared to before. Because of the spirit possession and Douluo's weak mental power, she could not completely converge the light. In this environment, she was like a moving light bulb, very conspicuous. Sister Yan, why don't you put away your spirit first? At night, there will be more powerful predators in the forest. Let's get to the camp first to avoid unnecessary trouble. Han Li, who was used to hiding himself, was not used to this treatment. He turned his head to look at Douluo beside him. Okay. Douluo nodded. In fact, it was not only Han Li. After walking for a distance, she also felt something was wrong. Her current state was no different from deliberately provoking those soul beasts. But without the care of the martial soul, her night vision ability is not outstanding, but since Han Li said so, she just put away the martial soul. Sister Yan, wait a moment, your opponent is here, deal with it first, I will help you hold the line. Han Li suddenly stretched out his hand and pointed to the front. Douluo's expression instantly became serious, and she entered the combat state, her eyes fixed on the darkness ahead. Her mental power is not as strong as Han Li's. Maybe after the evolution of the martial soul, it has improved to a certain extent, but it is only a little higher than the same level, and it is far from being able to provide long-range warning. And just when she was fully alert, Han Li had already put away his breath and hid behind a tree. This was a battle she had to go through, and he was only responsible for safety. Chapter 90. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the darkness ahead. Without any hesitation, Douluo's first soul ring suddenly lit up, and a dark red linear energy shot directly in the direction of the sound ahead, exploded instantly and simultaneously ignited the surrounding trees, illuminating the place. Douluo looked carefully in the light of the fire. No, nothing. Her attack just now failed. As soon as this thought flashed through her mind, she heard a rustling sound in the darkness on the left, but it was more obvious than before. Is it a snake? Or another arthropod? The knowledge she learned finally gave her the feedback she deserved at this moment. The next second, she decisively left the place and ran quickly towards the place she had just attacked, and another lava beam shot towards the approximate location on the left where the sound just came from. In the case that it is not clear what kind of soul beast the enemy is, she can confirm that the only place she has just attacked is safe. Staying in place is undoubtedly the worst choice. Another explosion accompanied by a fire that lit up the surrounding trees, but Douluo still didn't see her opponent. The opponent's movement speed was very fast, which was the information she could confirm through 2 attacks. In this case, let's set fire to everything around. In this case, if you want to cross this natural protective circle to attack her, you will inevitably be injured by the flames, and it can also improve her vision environment and further confirm the identity and position of the enemy. Do it as you think of it. As the lava beam burned all the surroundings around Douluo as if it was free, she finally saw the appearance of the enemy. On the periphery of the fire circle, there was a big spider. It was running around the fire circle non-stop, as if looking for a suitable opening for it to break through. With the gradually brightening firelight around, Douluo looked at her enemy. The spider was wrapped in a shiny black shell. Compared with the common spider soul beasts, it was obviously not normal. Its body was extremely large, with a main body diameter of more than 1.5 meters, and 8 spear-like long legs of more than 3 meters. Spider? Although it is still not possible to fully identify its species, the general attacks of spider-like soul beasts are mainly based on toxins and spider webs, which are weak fire types. This wave of advantages is mine, and Douluo's confidence surged immediately. Very good, the next step is to confirm its species, find its weaknesses, and take corresponding measures according to its attack method. Thinking of this, Duguyan's first soul ring lit up again, and the dark red beam kept chasing the spiders on the periphery and began to bomb. Han Li, hiding in the dark, looked at Duguyan's response and nodded. So far, her performance is pretty good. Although it is a bit conventional, it is also a normal academic fighting method. It is safe and it is only a matter of time to win. I don't know if it is because of his poisonous milk. Just as his thoughts arose, the situation on the field changed instantly. Perhaps it was a little irritated by Duguyan's continuous attacks, and it was surrounded by the flames it hated the most. The spider stopped dodging and stopped on the spot with a sudden break. It took the blow from Duguyan, and with the flames burning on its body, it kicked its 8 long legs with all its strength and jumped directly to the center of the fire circle. That's right, in this situation, it actually jumped up. Its abnormal behavior not only made Han Li in the dark widen his eyes, but also made Duguyan, who was attacking, pause for a moment. However, she reacted immediately. No matter what type of spider soul beast it is, the soft abdomen has always been their common weakness. Although she didn't know what this spider was crazy about, she couldn't miss such an opportunity. She immediately aimed at the spider that was falling downwards, and opened fire with full power. The second soul ring and the first soul ring flashed one after another, and a dark red beam that was much thicker than before quickly shot towards the live target in the sky. At this time, she finally identified its type, which was a human-faced demon spider. There were some white lines on the abdomen of the leaping spider, which formed a sharp contrast with its black body, and these white lines formed a ferocious human face. In the lower abdomen, 8 small eyes flashing with faint purple light were staring at Duguyan below from mid-air, very angry. Seeing that Duguyan fired the flames that it hated very much at it again, it was not to be outdone, and its abdomen tightened slightly. The next second, a large white net with faint blue-purple liquid on the outside sprayed out from the abdomen and collided with the dark red beam in mid-air. Once the two came into contact, a violent explosion occurred, and the broken spider web residues were accompanied by flames and fell to the bottom of the battlefield. Seeing this situation, Duguyan frowned slightly, and a blood flame rose from her body, wrapping her whole body in it, burning the residue that fell on her body. However, it was this action that made her miss the best opportunity to attack. With a loud bang, the human-faced demon spider with fire all over its body fell to the ground, creating a cloud of dust. For some reason, this human-faced demon spider had an extremely strong hatred for Duguyan, and even at this moment, it did not take this opportunity to deal with the flames on its body. Instead, it raised its body again, and another web stained with poison was sprayed towards Duguyan. In desperation, Duguyan had no time to dodge, and could only stand where she was, and while the blood flames wrapped around her, she chose to use her soul skills to fight it. Taking this opportunity, the human-faced demon spider quickly waved its 8 long legs, moving in an extremely coquettish S-shaped position, dodging Duguyan's subsequent attacks while quickly approaching her. Seeing that the crazy human-faced demon spider didn't even care about its own injuries and chose to approach her, Duguyan sighed and could only lightly flap her wings behind her to leave the ground. But even so, the human-faced demon spider below still refused to give up. After the last spider web was sprayed and missed, it still ignored the flames on its body and continued to jump from below, trying to attack Duguyan in the air. This strange behavior, combined with the increasingly fierce flames on its body, formed a peculiar landscape in this soul beast forest. At this time, Han Li and the 2 title holders in the dark also flew into the air with strange expressions and came to Duguyan's side. They all looked at the red-roasted human-faced demon spider below in silence, which was still jumping up like a flea and trying to attack, not knowing what to say. Chapter 91. Especially Guangling and Douluo, they thought they were well informed and had never seen anything. But like this human-faced demon spider, it was unwilling to even run away, regardless of its own injuries, and it was the first time they had ever seen a spirit beast like "if you don't kill me, don't even think about leaving." In silence, Guangling turned to look at Douluo. This is the first time for this little girl to come to the Stardo forest. Could it be because of what you did here before that this man-faced demon spider held such a grudge and found her? Hearing his words, Douluo's face couldn't help but twitch. He was very shameless towards Guangling's behavior of blaming him whenever something bad happened. Don't say that I have never encountered the man-faced demon spider so far in my life. Even if I have, do you think it can survive from my hands? Or do you think the man-faced demon spider has the ability to lock enemies through blood? After Yanyanwuhan evolves, his aura is completely different from before, okay? Guangling didn't care when he heard his rebuttal, and said casually, "Anyway, apart from this, I really can't think of any other reason for the man-faced demon spider, who is famous for its insidiousness and cunning, to not even care about being roasted. To attack the little girl. Why not? Maybe this is Xiao Li. Well, I told Yan Yan before not to rush to get the big harvest of the soul ring." Douluo retorted subconsciously. After saying the words, he and Guangling were stunned for a moment, and turned to look at Han Li, who had been silent. And Douluo, who was a little depressed because of this battle, his eyes lit up and he turned to look at him simultaneously. When Han Li saw the three of them all turning their gazes towards him, his mind was filled with the sight of 10,000 alpacas rushing past. In fact, Guangling had this hunch when he tried to blame Douluo, but he really didn't want to admit that this was the opportunity arranged by Guo Ziyi. To be honest, it was a bit off the mark. How can it be given so forcefully? It doesn't even comply with the basic law of soul beasts, right? He just endured the damage without escaping, acting as if he must be killed by me today. This makes him feel like he is playing a low-quality online game. He is the financial backer. As long as he adds money, the game company can even customize various plots according to his preferences. But looking at the man-faced demon spider below, which was already motionless and whose breath was gradually beginning to weaken, he had no choice but to hold back a sigh of relief and said, "Maybe. Anyway, let's go down and take a look at the situation." "Well, Sister Yan, put out the flame first. Don't let it die yet. Let's study it." Hearing his words, the three of them could only nod. After all, they were also curious about what happened to the man-faced demon spider. The four of them fell to the ground together and stopped not far away. They endured the stench of being burned and looked at the people who were still pulling at the ground with their long legs, but could no longer stand up. The man-faced spider. It was still staring at Douluo, roaring from time to time, not sure whether it was expressing anger or simply pain. It really has a beginning and an end. Guangling couldn't help but sigh and praised its indomitable spirit. The other three looked at him speechlessly and looked at the soul beast in front of them again. If it is Yanyan's opportunity, we can't let Yanyan choose it for his third soul ring. If it were before, forget it. Now, it is only 2,000 years old, and the attributes are not so suitable. It is really not worth wasting. Drop a soul ring. Douluo shook his head like a rattle. It was obvious that he didn't think this guy was suitable to be his granddaughter's third soul ring. Can't you have some potential? Why are you always staring at that soul ring? Can't it just be a soul bone? Guangling glanced at Douluo with disdain, then turned to look at Han Li, as if asking him for his opinion. "I think what Master said makes sense, but even if it is a soul bone, it is a bit low for more than 2,000 years. Han Li first confirmed Guangling's statement, and then added, "Have you two forgotten that there are still people here? What about 3 people missing?" 3 people, soul bones. Douluo murmured to himself, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, those are the 3 people. If they are true, they will make a lot of money this time. You guys wait here, I'll bring them over right away. Man-faced demon spider, you have to hold on a little longer, don't die." After saying that, he didn't say hello to the 3 people present, and rushed towards the place where the 3 fallen soul masters had been placed before at an extremely fast speed. Yet, how could I forget this? Guangling was slightly stunned when she saw his reaction, but then she reacted. She slapped her forehead and looked at the man-faced demon spider with a different look, as if she was looking at a treasure. "Xiao Li, Grandpa, what happened to them?" Only Douluo was still a little confused, walked to Han Li and asked in a low voice. "Good thing, Sister Yan, if our guess is correct, you will be able to get a soul bone soon, a very strong one." Han Li responded with a smile and did not continue. It was better to leave the surprise behind and reveal it together. Douluo came back very quickly. Of course, this was also because they were involved in protection around him. The 3 of them were swept up by his soul power and thrown directly into the open space in front of them. When they got up from the ground, Han Li looked at the 3 of them and pointed at the quasi-soul sect with the highest physical strength according to the records. "You, come out, next, I will unlock your soul power restrictions, and then you go to kill it. If you can successfully absorb the soul ring, I will let you live and throw you into the slaughter city. Whether you live or die depends on your luck. How about it?" The quasi-soul sect looked at him, spat at him, and said with a grin, "Bah, bastards from the spirit hall, if you want to kill your grandfather, I will kill you. Although I don't know what you are going to do, if you want me to do things for you, you'd better give up this idea. I will. He didn't finish his words because his neck was twisted directly. Oh, by the way, Han Li also threw a bright little fireball at him who fell down. Well, this thing was named Fire Bomb Technique by him. Looking at the quasi-soul sect who was burned to ashes, the other two swallowed their saliva, lowered their heads, and closed their mouths. Even they wanted to live. Okay, now you have one less competitor. Next, let's follow the same conditions as before. Who will come? Han Li said to the other two with a kind smile. I'll do it. I'm level 40. The remaining quasi-soul sect member spoke before the other soul master without hesitation. Okay, then you do it. Han Li threw a pill at him casually and pointed at the dying human-faced demon spider. The man did not hesitate and took the pill and swallowed it. Then, in less than a minute, the fluctuation of his soul power had been restored. Feeling the power coming back, he wanted to vent his excitement, but he was suppressed by 4 pairs of eyes. He did not dare to wait there and walked towards the human-faced demon spider. The next second, his martial soul appeared in his hand. It was a long whip that exuded a bloody smell. The third soul ring lit up, and the whip immediately became straight. With a sharp sound of wind, it was inserted into the brain of the human-faced demon spider along its eyes. After struggling weakly for a few times, the human-faced demon spider finally lost its breath. In the last moments of its life, it flicked one of its legs towards Douluo. Chapter 92. Under the attention of several people, the quasi-soul sect sat down cross-legged and began to absorb the soul ring. He absorbed it very smoothly. After all, the man-faced demon spider only has a lifespan of more than 2,000 years. In just over an hour, he successfully completed the absorption. Just as he was about to stand up and ask Han Li if his previous words still stood, his body suddenly paused and a muffled groan came from his mouth. In just a split second, the clothes on his back were stretched open, and 8 purple-black spider legs quickly emerged from his back, waving irregularly. Sure enough, this idea flashed through the minds of the 3 people who either knew about it or had already guessed it before. The next second, the soul sect, who had just absorbed the soul ring and was still in a dazed state, rolled his eyes and fainted. The other person beside him also fell down. What's happening here? Douluo turned her head and glanced, and a clear voice with a hint of stupidity sounded in the field. Until now, she was still confused. Sister Yan, it's obvious that it's time to harvest. Here, the soul bone is attached. Han Li pointed to the soul sect lying on the ground and the 8 spider legs still swinging behind him, and replied with a smile. The legendary external soul bone? Are those spider legs? Douluo finally remembered the treasure in the Soul Master world that was forgotten somewhere in his memory and was said to be the most valuable treasure in the Soul Master world along with the 100,000-year-old soul rings and soul bones. Okay, senior, it's up to you to do it. It's poisonous and it's inconvenient for Master and I to come into contact with it. Han Li responded briefly and turned to look at Douluo. Leave it to me. I didn't expect that one day I would touch the attached soul bone with my own hands. Tisk, what a blessing. Douluo let out a light tut and strode towards the soul sect who fell on the ground. The next scene can be said to be extremely cruel. In front of several people, Douluo forcefully pulled the spider legs off his body. During this period, he was awakened by pain several times, and then passed out from the pain. When the thing completely fell into Douluo's hands, there were almost no good bones in his chest and back. He couldn't even maintain the most basic outline, and his chest collapsed inward. Douluo didn't forget to give them both a slap in the face. The soul power was so condensed that it was as big as one person, so that Han Li's fire bullet technique didn't even appear again. Of course, before Han Li directly killed Yang Hui and Douluo completely eliminated hidden dangers, they had already greeted Guangling. Originally, Han Li wanted to use it and send it back to Wuhan Palace, but according to Guangling, the 3 of them were already dead in the records of Wuhan Palace, and there was no need for dead people to appear again, so they had no choice but to help. The record becomes a true record. After extinguishing all the surrounding flames, Han Li kindly dug a hole and made a grave for the man-faced demon spider who had made outstanding contributions, and then walked towards the camp with the 3 of them. Sure enough, the campground is still usable. After a brief tidying up, several people gathered around the lit fire. Douluo also took out the soul bone and placed it in the open space between the 4 of them. After being dug out, the soul bone shrunk to the size of an arm. Under the light of the fire, there were still some bloodstains on the purple-blue soul bone, making it look a bit ferocious. So, this is the little girl's chance. After watching for a while, Guangling took the initiative to speak out, and the meaning of his words also showed his attitude towards this soul bone. Douluo did not speak, but turned his attention to Han Li. Although he also hoped to give the soul bone to his granddaughter, to be honest, getting this soul bone depended on everything Han Li had prepared in advance. This is an external soul bone, and Han Li is still kind to their grandfather and grandson, so he can't say this. Xiao Li, hurry up and absorb it. This is a rare external soul bone. It will definitely be of great help to you. Douluo turned his head to Han Li and said seriously. Although she had known that Han Li had predicted that the soul hunting would be a big harvest this time, she did not expect that there would be treasures like external soul bones. Although Han Li had always said that a big harvest would be her chance, to be honest, she was a little afraid and unable to accept such a precious treasure. What are you talking about, Sister Yan? Of course it is up to you to absorb this soul bone. As I said before, this is your opportunity. Han Li stretched out his hand to stop her who was about to speak, and her soul bones appeared on the top of her head and eyes at the same time. First of all, I really don't lack this externally attached soul bone. Secondly, I don't play poison. You can tell from this that it is poisonous, and it is a bit wasteful to absorb it. Finally, isn't it just an externally attached soul bone? My back is reserved for the green shadow condor, and the spider legs really don't match me. After listening to what he said, the three of them felt funny, angry, and a little bit sour. Before they even saw the blue shadow condor, this guy had already ordered someone else's wings to be the next attached soul bone. But thinking of what happened to them recently, including the fairy grass, the evolution of martial souls, the two soul bones on his body and the external soul bone in front of them, they fell silent again, unable to find a reason to refute. All right, Sister Yan, let the seniors go and guard you as you absorb the soul bones. I'm a little tired today and want to rest early. I have to find the blue shadow condor and the fire scale snake tomorrow. Han Li didn't want to argue anymore, so he simply chose to sleep and escape, which was considered to be the final decision. As the firelight jumped, the three of them glanced at Han Li, who had already walked aside and lay down, deliberately turning his back. They looked at each other and couldn't help but relax their hands. Early the next morning, when it was still dark, Han Li was woken up from his sleep by hunger. Last night, in order to save money, he forced himself to sleep. The price was that he missed dinner, and now he was the consequence of missing dinner. After getting up and looking at Douluo who was still watching beside the fire, Han Li walked over. Do you regret it? The soul bone Yanyan has absorbed it, and the effect is very good. Douluo turned his head and glanced at the two people behind him who were still sleeping. He took out a food box from the treasure bag and handed it to him. This was the food they specially set aside for him last night, but they didn't expect that the boy didn't wake up until Douluo finished absorbing the soul bone, so he had to put it away first. Han Li took it, smelled the aroma of the food inside, opened it quickly, stuffed the thing into his mouth, and said vaguely while eating. There is nothing to regret. I have already said that the attached soul bone is for Sister Yan. As for you and Master, I can't get other senior soul bones now. Otherwise, I will stuff them all over your body. Full. Okay, then I'll wait for the day when you can fill us up. Douluo burst into laughter upon hearing his words. After saying that, he looked at Han Li, who was eating heavily, and sighed, that's a soul bone attached to the outside. It's a bit of a loss to use it to deceive my granddaughter. When Han Li heard what he said, he stopped eating and choked on the food in his mouth. Sister Yan, isn't her soul bone more valuable to you? Han Li, who regained his composure after drinking some water, glanced at Douluo with interest. You kid really can't spit out ivory from a dog's mouth. Is that what I meant? It's the same if I give it to my granddaughter and you give it to my granddaughter. Douluo scolded him angrily, I can see that you are deliberately tying up our grandson and you to death. I won't say anything anymore. Yanyan can't escape now even if he wants to. The key is if we still can't refuse, I might risk my life for you one day. You can rest assured about this. I don't need you to fight for me. It's up to me to decide if you can beat me in 10 years at most. Han Li put a spoonful of soup into his mouth and replied seriously. Douluo said and stopped talking. He just stared at the fire in a daze. Just when Han Li was about to get up after eating, He heard Douluo's voice again. When Yanyan and you arrive at Wuhan City, take more care of her and be nice to her. Well, don't worry about this. I never treat my family badly. Han Li paused for a moment, waved his hand behind him, and walked out of the camp. Chapter 93. After wandering around for a while and sorting out some personal hygiene issues, when he returned to the camp, he found that Guangling and Douluo had also woken up, and the three of them were already eating. Instead of joining in the fun, Han Li practiced new skills on the sidelines. After changing from elemental affinity to control, he continued to try to develop new skills. In other words, it's not development at all, but plagiarism to see if you can try to copy the moves in your memory to the point where you can be a mage even without using martial arts. But how to say, so far, the results can only be said to be unsatisfactory. He can easily do simple compression, explosion, burning, shaping, condensation, temperature control, etc., but advanced methods such as elementalization, clone, flame jumping, ice transfer, etc., he is not able to do it at all. Puzzled. Obviously the elements are there for him to round and flatten, but he just can't do it, as if there is a sad barrier between them. Guangling took the lead in having breakfast, and saw him starting to tinker over there again, so he came over. Don't think about it now. I've told you that your level is still low now. Even if your spiritual power reaches the soul saint level, it's hard to understand what's inside. Just like I can't describe to you the feeling of the martial soul's true form. It's the same, once you achieve it, you will understand naturally. In the cultivation of a soul master, the soul saint stage is the qualitative change. After that, you have to wait until the super Douluo. Guangling told his cultivation experience. Well, I know, master, I just want to try it out of boredom. Han Li dispersed the elemental power in his hand and replied with a smile. Okay, go pack your things. They are almost finished eating. It will be up to you two to go deep in for a while. We will not take action easily against soul beasts that are less than 20,000 years old. Guangling patted his shoulder and pointed at Douluo, who looked here from time to time. Also, you can take a look at her external soul bones. The changes formed when combined with her martial soul are quite interesting. Really? Then I'll go take a look. Han Li walked over there. Xiao Li. Seeing him coming over, Douluo stopped eating and stood up directly, greeting him with a smile. It seems that Sister Yan is in a good mood. I heard from Master that the external soul bone and the martial soul have mutated after being combined. Let me take a look. Hearing his teasing words, Douluo gave him a nice look in return, and took a few steps to the side. A pair of dark red bases, embellished with purple and blue stripes, and wings covered with spikes below appeared on her behind. Han Li just scanned it casually and discovered something was wrong. At this time, Douluo was not possessed by a martial spirit, so these weapon-like wings were the original 8 spider spears. I can also practice double swords with you in the future. Douluo looked at Han Li's expression with satisfaction and said something playful. Don't tell me, can you take off your wings and use them as weapons? After hearing her words, Han Li naturally thought of this. It's not possible in this situation now, but it can be done after being possessed by a martial spirit. Seeing that he had guessed it directly, Douluo didn't waste any time and completed the possession of the martial spirit in an instant. The moment the spirit possessed her, the physical wings and the energy wings overlapped each other, and there was a flash of light that seemed to echo, and then 2 miniature wing blades fell into her hands. It's amazing. Can you show it to me? Han Li's eyes lit up, wanting to see the difference between these two knives and his martial spirit. No, here you go. Douluo handed over the knife in his hand without hesitation. Han Li took it over and looked at it carefully. He found that there was indeed a certain gap between the feel and the martial spirit. Although it was also solid, it felt like the energy had materialized after holding it tightly. It was also very light, but the circle on the outer blade, the purple-blue barbs, are exactly the same as the real spider leg barbs, gorgeous and ferocious. Is this a soul bone skill? Han Li asked casually. Let's forget it. I found that this soul bone does not seem to have active skills. All abilities require my own continuous familiarity and development. At present, in addition to turning it into a weapon, I only found that it has the ability to extract and store poison at will. The poison and fire poison of the martial spirit are also stored in it, and it also has a certain devouring ability, both in terms of soul power and vitality. Like this. As he said that, Duguyan picked up the remaining knife, walked to a big tree nearby, and chopped it down. He saw scorch marks and obvious black corrosion marks first appearing on the trunk. Then a faint hint of green spread along the blade into Duguyan's body, and near the knife mark, there were obvious signs of dryness on the tree trunk. Don't expose this ability in front of others. It should be controllable, right? What's the effect of swallowing it? Han Li's expression became a little more serious. He didn't think there was a problem with this ability, but he thought it was different from what everyone thought. What's more, they were not strong enough yet, and this ability could easily be used as an excuse to attack. Well, don't worry, I can control it myself. If I don't use the sword, 8 energy lines will appear from the wings when swallowing. It's too obvious, and Senior Guangling has also reminded me, I would abuse this ability. As for the effect of swallowing, it's average. It may be because the soul bones are still young, and many of them naturally overflow. For example, with the knife just now, I felt a little more energetic. If I didn't feel it deliberately, I don't even feel it, maybe it will improve as I grow. Duguyan replied seriously that she did not want to become the fallen soul master that others called her. Han Li handed back the wing blade in his hand, indicating that it was okay. Duguyan took it casually and threw the 2 swords behind him without looking, and the 2 wing blades disappeared. Sister Yan, you can try to combine the possession of the martial soul with the use of the external soul bone. This will make it easier to hide. Han Li suggested. Well, that's what I think too. When the time comes, others will only think it's my soul skill and never think it's a soul bone skill. By the way, what do you think about calling it Flame Spirit Wing Blade? Well, as long as you like it. Han Li smiled. He was aware of his naming ability and would not interfere with it. Duguyan tried a few more times before finally fixing the summoning modes of the 2 together. He waved his wings happily, turned out the Flame Spirit Wing Blade, and charged at low altitude several times in a decent manner before he finally became quiet. Come down. Han Li on the side looked at her actions with an inexplicable sense of familiarity. After a while, he remembered, how could he not be familiar with it? Looking at the appearance, the current Duguyan was a replica of Jian Rongxiu. Well, a low-end version. After all, the gap between martial soul and strength was there. Does this count as I raised Duguyan into Jian Rongxiu? He teased in his mind. Chapter 94. After Duguyan was completely familiar with the new changes, Han Li took her to say goodbye to the 2 title Douluo and set out on the soul hunting journey again. This is already the central location of the forest soul beast mixed area. Without the protection of the 2 title Douluo, even Han Li has directly raised his vigilance to the highest level. He doesn't want to learn from a certain immortal emperor who accidentally stepped on a bug and died. In short, their journey was relatively smooth. The spiritual power of the soul saint level is better. His detection range is very large, and he can avoid some dangers in advance, even if some are really unavoidable. The mental attack with the ice element can often make the soul beast that is first seen fall into a state of slow thinking at the first time, and then Hawkeye activates the mark, and then calmly shoots an arrow with the element and armor-breaking power at the opponent, accurately shooting from the eyes, and the mixed elements of ice and fire explode directly in the head, and the battle is declared over. Clean and precise, violent and precise, all preparations are for the final blow. This is Han Li's current offensive style, focusing on efficiency, which makes Duguyan, who is following behind her, look very happy. Guangling and Dugubo in the dark also nodded continuously. Although they are still a little immature, they do have a bit of the demeanor of a strong man. As they continued to advance, the soul beasts they encountered became stronger and stronger, until they encountered a group of fire hyenas, and they completely saw Han Li's combat effectiveness. The group of fire hyenas was suddenly encountered by them in a valley in the forest. Han Li and Duguyan had bypassed their residence, but they did not expect that just when they were about to leave the territory, they encountered some scattered soul beasts returning from hunting. The opponent's sense of smell was very sharp, and even if they had hidden in time, they were still discovered. Although Han Li had taken action immediately, because there was still a distance between several soul beasts still roared, and then after receiving the signal, a large number of fire hyenas in the territory came towards them in a mighty way. The fire hyena group was not weak. Among them, there was a dog king who was nearly 20,000 years old, and 4 guards who were over 10,000 years old. After reaching 10,000 years, soul beasts began to have strong intelligence. Seeing that there were only Han Li and the other 2, and that the auras of both were not strong, they rushed over frantically. Fire hyenas were not strong among the soul beasts, and their individual strength could even be said to be at the bottom of the same level, but they were able to occupy a large territory here, relying on the power of the group and their fearless fighting style. Under the leadership of the Dog King, all the soul beasts howled and rushed over. Seeing this, Han Li directly ordered Duguyan to fly high into the sky, but he himself did not leave directly, but recalled the relevant information and stuck in a range slightly beyond their attack range. Taking advantage of the range, he constantly gave the opponent hope, and kept turning back to harass with large-scale ice arrows, angering the opponent while preventing the Dog King from approaching him quickly, and he suddenly began to shoot at the guards around the Dog King. After killing 2 10,000-year-old fire hyenas and several 8,000-year-old fire hyenas, the Dog King entered a violent state and ignored his harassment. A ball of flames appeared on his body, covering his entire body, and he resisted his attack and reached the vicinity. Just when the Dog King felt that victory was just around the corner, Han Li smiled and detonated the cold poison on his body. With the slow-thinking effect of mental attack, he sent a milky white arrow into its still barking mouth and detonated it directly at the heart. The invincible Dog King fell. But the battle did not end there. The fall of the Dog King completely detonated the madness of the fire hyena group, and they began to rush towards Han Li at all costs. And Han Li did not mean to indulge them. Just as the test of combat effectiveness had not been completely completed, he flew directly into the air in the desperate eyes of the dog group, put away his martial soul, and after a brief compression of his soul power, he threw a red and white lotus into the center of the battlefield. Then, after a brief pause, the lotus completely exploded in the dog pack. With just one strike, nearly 30 soul beasts were left in place. On their remaining bodies, ice crystals and flames coexisted, which was very beautiful. It was this strike that completely destroyed the fighting spirit of the fire hyena pack. Some fire hyenas with relatively young age instinctively began to flee frantically, and their behavior also affected other fire hyenas. Soon, the fire hyena pack that had been united before disbanded and fled in different directions. When there was no trace of soul beasts around, Han Li fell from mid-air. After checking that there was no soul bone, he quickly fled the scene with Duguyan. His mental power consumption was not bad, but his soul power had now dropped to less than 1/3. This was because his soul power was relatively condensed, and it was not difficult to break the defense of 5 fire hyenas whose combat power was between Soul King and Soul Emperor. But the arrows he shot to ensure that he could kill the fire hyena king directly, and the ice crystal fire lotus he threw at the end, were all big consumers of soul power. These 2 attacks alone consumed nearly half of his soul power. After getting away from that area, Han Li finally relaxed. Then, in the surprised eyes of Duguyan, he decisively chose to use the Great Summoning Technique. After Guangling and Dugubo appeared, he nodded to the 3 of them, sat down cross-legged, and took the time to recover his soul power. Is it strange? Guangling smiled and asked Duguyan, who was still a little stunned. It's a bit. When I think that Xiao Li just dispersed a group of fire hyenas by himself, and then turned around and started calling the teacher, I always feel a bit, well, a bit contrary. Duguyan expressed his true thoughts. Ha ha ha, you will get used to it from now on. This is the real Xiao Li. Face is not worth mentioning to him. Safety is the highest priority. Guangling couldn't help laughing when she thought of what happened before. There is nothing wrong with what Han Li did. Only in this way can we live longer and better in the Soul Master world. Yan Yan, you have to remember this. Dugubo took this opportunity to teach his granddaughter. Yes, I understand, Grandpa. Duguyan nodded obediently in agreement. Yeah, but this kid is really strong. He almost wiped out the fire hyena group by himself. If encountered alone, as long as it is not a fast-flying spirit beast, an ordinary spirit beast with 30,000 years of age is estimated to be he also had a chance to kill. Dugubo sighed as he looked at Han Li who was recovering his soul power. Don't say that. His soul power is still too weak, which is holding him back. His explosive ability is not bad, but it can only be said to be average. At this time, Guangling became humble on behalf of Han Li, but the slightly raised corners of his mouth revealed his true mood. TCH, those who didn't know better thought I was complimenting you. Dugubo glanced at him angrily. He is my apprentice. You. He is my apprentice. Seeing that Guangling couldn't argue, Dugubo simply closed his mouth, came to his granddaughter, whispered in a low voice, and looked in Guling's direction from time to time. Chapter 95 After only an hour, Han Li opened his eyes from practicing and he had recovered. Glancing at the three people chatting aside, he stood up and walked over there. Have you recovered? Guangling looked up and down at his energetic apprentice. Well, that's it. The green shadow condor's nest is not far from here. It's on a mountain to the east. I took a look just now. There are 3 of them, 2 big and 1 small. The big one just left the nest. There's still one that's 18,000 years old. It's just right for you. How about it? Do it yourself or should I do it? Guangling joked. Come on, the green shadow condor is too fast, so the attack is not bad. You are sure to kill it with 1 hit. But if I run away when I get close, I might have to wait a long time. The combat power has also been tested. The soul beast that Sister Yan needs is still on the other side of the forest, we have to hurry up, I don't want to stay in the forest longer, the sunset forest has cast a shadow on me. Han Li shook his head decisively and rejected the master's proposal. Hey, you are lazy. So far, none of the soul beasts in your soul ring have been caught by yourself. Guangling teased. I can't help it. Who made my master too strong? Han Li shrugged and immediately flattered him. Did you learn it? Yan Yan, did you see it? Grandpa will use Han Li to teach you a life motto today. Shamelessness and flattery are the necessary conditions for becoming a strong person. Douluo also joked from the side. Yan covered her mouth and snickered, but did not answer. Naturally, she could tell that her grandfather was joking. You're such an old poisoner, you've even tricked me into it. Little girl, I'll teach you one more thing, that is, the eyes of a strong man are also powerful. Watch out. After saying that, Guangling stood up, looked at Douluo, fiercely mobilized his soul power to press him over, and then ran away quickly. I'm going to catch the green shadow condor, and you stay and protect them both. It wasn't until his figure disappeared that Douluo stiffly moved his body and muttered, what a Guangling, you actually use your soul power to oppress me and don't let me speak, just wait for me. Han Li and Yan looked at each other, lowered their heads and smiled. They were used to the friendly interaction between the two along the way. In less than a stick of incense, the 3 of them were chatting, when light feathers fell directly from the sky. Judging from his expression, he seemed to be in a good mood. The 3 of them followed his eyes and saw that both of his hands were fully occupied. One hand was holding a giant cyan eagle, and the other was holding a huge blue eagle. In one hand, he was holding a fiery red spicy stick. It's good luck, and there's an unexpected gain. The little girl doesn't have to go to the other side to get her soul ring. As Guangling said that, he threw what he was holding on the ground in front of the 3 of them. Is this the fire-feathered serpent? Douluo took a look at the weak snake spirit beast on the ground and let out a cry of surprise. Well, didn't I tell you before that a big one left the nest? I just went over there and it happened to come back with a fire-feathered snake in its mouth. I saw that it was not dead yet, so I brought it back with me. I don't know where that guy found it. Fire-feathered snakes are much rarer than fire-scaled snakes. In addition, they can fly and have extremely strong survivability. They were even picked up by it. Guangling sighed. More than 6,500 years, which is a bit higher than the originally promised 6,000 years. Han Li judged the year of the fire-feathered snake and looked at Yan. Don't worry, it's okay. Grandpa tested my body's endurance last night. Xiao Li, did you forget that I absorbed it? Yan smiled and showed off the wings on his back. Oh, yes, Han Li patted his forehead. He fell asleep last night and did not watch Yan absorb the soul bones. Instead, he subconsciously ignored the physical bonus brought by the attached soul bones. Well, let's take it. Compared to the fire-scale snake, the fire-feathered snake is more suitable for you, Sister Yan. Whether it's its speed and flame bonus, or its large-scale attack ability, it's good. Han Li subconsciously analyzed the benefits of the soul ring. It doesn't matter, it's not a loss if you get anything. Yan blinked his eyes and looked at Han Li again, looking thoughtful. What's wrong? Sister Yan. The look in Yan's eyes made him feel a little hairy. Well, I'm just saying that in the past, when we obtained soul skills, it all depended on luck. Even the fixed soul beasts explored by predecessors may go wrong. But I heard from Senior Guangling that when you acquire soul skills, it's all about what you want most. Yes, how about you try to give me a blessing? Yan's expression was very serious. Blessing? How to bless? Han Li was a little confused. Like this. Duguyan took the initiative to walk to him, picked up his hand, and placed it on top of her head. She closed her eyes, moved her lips slightly, and silently recited the soul skill she wanted to obtain. Han Li was a little dumbfounded. Feudal superstition was a shame, but he didn't move his hand away. Forget it, let her do it, maybe it would actually be useful. A minute later, Duguyan opened his eyes, bowed to him again, and then sent the fire-feathered snake away in a serious manner. Under the protection of Douluo, he walked aside and began to absorb the soul ring. Okay, Xiao Li, you can start too. Guangling watched them playing with a smile from the side. It wasn't until Duguyan left that he pointed at the long-awaited green shadow condor on the ground. Han Li did not say anything more, summoned his martial soul, and sent it away with an arrow. He looked at the dark soul ring in front of him and sat down on the spot. The soul ring absorption process was very easy, so easy that Han Li did not feel any pressure. After absorbing the energy in the soul ring with ease, he stood up decisively and waited for the wings to appear. Well, that's how confident he was. Well, he admitted that he was pretending. Sure enough, the moment he stood up, the clothes on his back were torn apart, and a pair of huge green eagle wings stretched out from under his shoulder blades, blowing up dust all over the ground, making him choke and cough. Ha ha ha! Guangling on the side laughed unconsciously, as if he liked the scene of his own disciple making a fool of himself. Master! Han Li stared at him with resentment, and then he realized that his upper body was a little cold. When the eagle wings were extended just now, not only did they tear the clothes on his back, but the huge tension also pulled the clothes on his front. His original top was now hanging on his waist and dragging on his pants. It seems that with this pair of wings, clothes will have to be customized in the future. Han Li muttered a little distressed. Okay, stop showing off. The girls' show is almost over. Go change clothes first. Well, take the backless dress you don't want to wear. Put on a cloak outside. Anyway, you will probably have to show your wings later. Guangling reminded with a smile on his face. Chapter 96. Han Li turned his head to look to the other side and found that the aura on Duguyan's body gradually began to calm down, so he quickly got into the bushes on the side. After hesitating for a while, considering the problem of the return trip, he listened to his master's advice and put on the backless dress, and decided in his heart that he would order the clothes immediately after returning. It was too awkward to wear it like this. When he changed his clothes and came out, he found that Duguyan had finished absorbing the soul ring and was happily talking to the other two people. Xiao Li, your blessing is really effective. As soon as she saw him appear, Duguyan trotted excitedly, grabbed his arm, and shared her experience with him. Really? Then Sister Yan, you might as well tell us what soul skills you have obtained. Han Li followed her words and asked with a smile. My third soul skill is called Sky Fire Feather. After it is turned on, it will gain 50% speed and fire attack range bonus, and will quickly shoot a feather condensed by flames forward. How about it? How about that? Not bad, I inherited all my abilities. Duguyan said somewhat proudly. It's really good. Not only does it have an increase, but it also comes with a range of attacks. Sister Yan is very powerful. Han Li gave her a thumbs up. Humph, of course. By the way, Xiao Li, what is your third soul skill? Also, Grandpa told me that you also have wings, please show me quickly. Duguyan looked at Han Li, who had changed his clothes, and asked curiously. Seeing that Guangling and Douluo were also looking over, Han Li directly summoned the martial spirit. The small black, purple and black rings arranged in front of the bow handle were very eye-catching. There was a flash of light, and 3 arrows condensed with soul power fell into his hands after passing through the third soul ring. He handed the arrows to the 3 of them respectively. No, you can feel it for yourself. The 3 people took the arrows, and then they discovered something was wrong. The arrows with a layer of cyan light attached to the surface were in their hands, and their weight kept changing. Sometimes they were as light as a feather, and sometimes they weighed more than 1,000 pounds. This is my third soul skill. The name doesn't matter, _. I haven't thought about it yet. Its effect is to increase the flight speed of arrows by 100%, and it also inherits the control of the blue shadow condor. I don't know the upper limit of my own mass, but according to estimates, it can be used for my daily attacks. Well, I can also control the arrow speed. As he spoke, he quickly drew his bow and fired a wave of 3 rapid fires at the open space not far away. Under his control, although the 3 arrows were shot out one after another, they landed in one place at the same time. Then, he shot another arrow, and the 3 of them saw that the slowly floating arrow suddenly accelerated violently halfway through the flight, fell to the ground in the distance, and instantly exploded into a large pit. Hiss! The 3 of them looked at the large pit in the distance and thought about how light and easy the arrow was when it was first shot out. They couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Why do you feel that Xiao Li's attacks are becoming more and more insidious? Similar thoughts occurred in the minds of the 3 people at the same time. What about the pair of swords? What is the soul skill? Guangling asked subconsciously. With dual swords, the inherited abilities are similar. In addition to increasing the attack speed by 100%, the quality of the swords is also controlled by me. Unlike arrows, when they change quality, I don't have to bear the same weight. It's still the same weight. Han Li did not switch the display this time, there was no need. The 3 of them felt a bit toothache when they heard that. They could already imagine the scene where Han Li struck out with a light sword, and the opponent was directly slashed to his knees, with his feet sinking into the ground. Forget it, as long as you are satisfied. After a while, Guangling said this. Where are the wings? Where are the wings? Xiao Li, show me quickly what your wings look like. Duguyan came to his side, subconsciously lifted his cloak, saw the backless dress underneath, and burst out laughing when he saw his awkward look. Okay, don't laugh. I'll order new clothes as soon as I get back. Han Li gritted his teeth and said, trembling with anger. Why should a man be laughed at for wearing a backless dress? He didn't even realize that what Duguyan was laughing at was a sign of his own discomfort. Okay, let's go back and talk about the clothes. Tell us what abilities your wings have brought to you. Dugubo waved his hand nonchalantly, he was still more interested in the effect of soul bones. Han Li took 2 steps back, and 2 huge cyan eagle wings spread out from his back again. They were almost twice as long as his open arms. They were covered with thick wind energy. The entire wing seemed to be made of cyan jade. Generally, the shape of feathers is carved on it, and the cyan light is constantly flowing on it, which is very beautiful. So beautiful! Duguyan exclaimed in surprise, took 2 steps forward, and touched it with his hand. It looked like the wings were made of jade, but they felt very soft and felt very good. Don't touch it, you can feel it. Han Li waved his wings uncomfortably and pushed her away slightly, but he didn't notice that her eyes brightened a little more. Well, I call it Qingling. After all, it was caught by Master, so I'll keep it as a souvenir. It has only one ability, which is to give me extreme speed. The flying speed of the soul bone is equivalent to that of the Qingying divine eagle of the same age, which can ignore wind resistance. Han Li waved his wings with satisfaction, and a cyan light flashed, and he had already reached the other side of the open space from this side. Another cyan light flashed, and he returned to the original place again. Finally, he didn't have to spit fire with his hands and feet. He was very satisfied with it. It was a pity that the thunder attribute was missing, otherwise it could be called Fenglai Wing directly. But it doesn't matter. Left 0 and right fire, Thunder God helps me. After being thoroughly proficient in using it, he thinks that he can combine it with nitrogen acceleration mode at that time, which must be very handsome. Well, I can use ice blades to disguise it at that time. When fighting in the sky, I can also cosplay a wave of wind extreme meteor kill. I have to say, it's still quite exciting. Thank you 2 masters, your stuff is really good. Relying on his strong physical coordination and mental strength, Han Li familiarized himself with the use of wings nearby and quickly mastered it. Although it was still unrealistic to apply it directly to combat, simple flight was no problem. Well, this soul hunting event came to a successful conclusion. After a brief discussion, the 4 decided to fly directly from above the forest. However, Duguyan's flying speed was still a bit slow. Her speed bonus was only available after the soul skill was activated. She did not have the strong soul power support of the 2 titles, so she could only be led by Dugubo and headed directly towards the town. Chapter 97. It has to be said that flying from the unobstructed sky is indeed much faster than the ground. Of course, this is also protected by 2 titles, which is why they can move forward at full speed unscrupulously. The moon had just risen, and the 4 of them had already reached the edge of the town. They each folded their wings and walked towards the town. After finding Rosago, the group of them found an open space next to the carriage, bought some ready-made food from the town, and celebrated briefly. Well, this can be considered a farewell party. Tomorrow morning, the three of them will part ways with Douluo. In front of the fire, Douluo and Guangling touched each other, took a sip of wine, looked at the two young men chatting and laughing at the side, and sighed, "It's better to be young. You are not old. You have regained your youth. From the appearance, you are just a middle-aged man. Well, if you count the lifespan gained after being banned, you are still a middle-aged man. If you are envious, marry me again. Not even one can come in time." Perhaps due to the upcoming separation, Guangling's verbal aggression has also become much weaker. Although he is still teasing, the intensity has been reduced a lot. "Tch, you think everyone is just like you, with a childish face and a childish personality." Douluo's corresponding attack ability has increased a lot. "Are you afraid you don't want to practice?" Guangling's face darkened. "I've already let you go, why are you attacking me again?" "Hey, don't worry about it. Just say it casually. I'll ask you to take care of Yanyan when he arrives at Wuhan City. I'll take care of things here first." Douluo waved his hand casually and looked at Guangling. "You don't have to worry about this. I'm my disciple, I will take care of it." Guangling replied angrily. "Didn't you agree?" Douluo glanced at him. "It doesn't matter whether I agree or not. Your granddaughter has absorbed all the soul bones. If she can run away from Xiao Li, then I, Guangling, am incompetent." Guangling said proudly. "Maid, neither of you, master and disciple, is a good person. You both have a dark heart." Douluo cursed in a low voice. "Hey, why are you attacking us personally? We are the Wuhan Palace that represents justice, but you, an old boy, have the worst reputation. We haven't disliked you yet." Guangling curled her lips and replied softly. "Yeah, well, I have the worst reputation, but that's also true. On the mainland, Wuhan Palace is pretty good. At least you can still do things." Douluo smiled, but he was no longer as repelled by Wuhan Palace as he was at first. He has already boarded the pirate ship, how can he leave, and Han Li and Guangling are still interested in him. Well, he is just a little dark-hearted. Fortunately, he is not a good person. Everyone is in the same boat, so don't dislike anyone. Han Li is at level 34, and Yan Yan is at level 33. I always feel that it's a bit unreal, especially since that boy is less than 8 years old. Douluo changed the topic and came to the two young people. He always felt like he had a toothache. Yet, if I hadn't watched Xiao Li get to where he is now, I wouldn't have believed it. Guangling's eyes looked at Han Li, a little fondly, but also a little confused, and she made a sound like gibbering. "You said, I will take the boy Han Li out for 3 months, and after I go back, he will be from 20 to 10 years old. If you reach level 34, how many people will you have to frighten? Ha ha ha, it's better to be scared. It's better to scare that old guy in Huhuguan to death." Douluo laughed loudly, touched Guangling's wine bottle vigorously, raised his head and poured it into his mouth. As the night progressed, several people returned to the carriage one after another, and there was no other movement. Maybe it was because everyone slept well the night before. The next day, the genius lit up slightly, and everyone woke up. Douluyan and Douluo got together and kept talking about their parents' personal problems. Each told the other what to do next, and agreed on how long they would meet before returning to the dining table. After a simple breakfast, it was finally time to say goodbye. Douluyan still couldn't hold it back, and cried into Douluo's arms. She had rarely left her grandfather since she was a child, and the longest time was only a month. Now, thinking about not seeing her for at least half a year, she still hasn't left. Sadness came to my heart. Master Han Li and Guangling watched from the sidelines without stepping forward. They couldn't get involved in this kind of thing. Under Douluo's comfort, Douluyan's mood finally improved, and she reluctantly got out of his arms and walked to Han Li's side with red eyes. "Okay, you guys go ahead. I won't take the carriage and will fly back directly later." Outside the carriage, Douluo said goodbye to the three of them, indicating that it was time for them to set off. "Okay, old poison, I'll see you in Wuhan City." Guangling left a word casually and turned around to get on the carriage. "Senior, see you in Wuhan City. I will take good care of Sister Yan." Han Li pulled Douluyan and assured Douluo in front of him. "Okay, I believe you won't make Yanyan sad." "Yanyan, Go ahead, it's time for you to leave Grandpa and go out for a walk. Douluo smiled very warmly, and although there was reluctance in his eyes, there were also smiles and blessings. Well, Grandpa, I know, you must take care of yourself. Also, when you go back, tell Lingling for me that I will come back. You must hand the letter to her personally. Douluo stepped forward and hugged her grandfather gently, emphasized a few more words, and followed Han Li into the carriage with 3 turns. Senior, goodbye. Through the window, Han Li cupped his hand towards Douluo again. Then see you. Douluo stood by the road, watching the carriage gradually leave the town, farther and farther away. Until he could no longer see any trace of the carriage, he turned around, summoned his wings in the envious eyes of a group of people, and flew straight into the sky. A dozen days later, in Wuhan City, a luxurious carriage at the gate finally drove into the city slowly after leaving for nearly 3 months. Is this Wuhan City? Douluo, who had long recovered, stood in front of the open window of the carriage, stuck his head out, and looked out curiously. Well, how is it? Not bad, right? Han Li responded with a smile. Well, there are so many soul masters. I have never seen so many soul masters gathered together, and this place is not like Tiandu City, where civilians can't wait to avoid soul masters. Douluo looked at the soul masters and civilians talking to each other and retracted his body. If you are interested, let's go out together some other day and you will understand. Han Li put away the book in his hand, stood up and stretched. He was about to reach the foot of Gongfeng Mountain, and could only walk up. He had already asked his master that he could take Douluo up the mountain, but before Qian Daoliu spoke, her range of activities could only be within the designated residential area. But for the time being, this was enough. It happened that he had originally planned to ask his master to move to the city with Sister Xiu'er after returning this time. This time, he went back and just did it together. Soon, the carriage stopped at the foot of the mountain. The 3 got off the carriage, and after saying goodbye to Master Luo cordially, they gave him a piece of Han Li's own identity token, saying that he could come to him if he had anything. Master Luo happily said goodbye and left. Let's go up the mountain. I'll take you to where I live now. Han Li stretched out his hand and pulled Douluo, who was looking around, and took her to the mountain. Along the way, he kept smiling and greeting the guards around him, and the guards also responded with a smile and respect, and took note of Douluo's appearance. As a result, he had just entered the residential area when he heard a familiar voice in front of him. Xiao Li, you're back. Following the voice, Han Li looked forward and saw Sister Xiu'er running towards him quickly. Chapter 98. Seeing Sister Xiu'er, Han Li stepped forward decisively. To be honest, I have lived with her for 4 years and I really miss her after not seeing her for nearly 3 months. Seeing him taking the initiative to greet her, Xiu'er smiled even more happily, and the speed of her feet increased a bit again. Looking at his open arms, she dived in. Good guy, I have to say that Sister Xiu'er's strength is really good, and it doesn't match her slim body at all. Even when the martial spirit was not activated, Han Li felt a considerable impact from the unconscious impact. This means that his physical strength is now comparable to that of the Soul Emperor, so he can do it without shaking. If it were Brother Tao here, he would be knocked out on the spot, and most of his bones would be broken. But this is also reasonable. Xiu'er's bodybuilding skills and whale gum are both performed at the same time as Han Li's, which means that the speed of soul power cultivation is a bit slower. However, the Crystal Bear, a top-level beast martial soul, has a strong impact on the physical fitness. The bonus is not generally high. Brother Tao really can't withstand this kind of impact without activating his martial spirit. Okay, Sister Xiu'er, get up. Master is still watching. After absorbing the soul ring this time, Han Li's height had reached 1.75 meters, which was almost a head taller than Xiu'er. He patted Xiu'er on the back to remind her that there was someone around her now. Ah, oh. Only then did Xiu'er wake up from her excitement. She got out of his arms with a flushed face and looked over there with some embarrassment. Xiu'er, don't pay attention to me, just pretend I don't exist. Guangling had already distanced herself from Douluo at some point, and stood to one side, looking at Xiu'er and then at the little girl from the Douluo family. The corners of her mouth were slightly raised, as if she was waiting for a good show to unfold. Han Li looked at his master who looked like he was eating melon, and couldn't help but twitching the corner of his mouth. Without Senior Douluo, he would be the victim. Lao Deng, just wait for me. When I have my hands free, I will go find my uncle to dig up dirt on you. By the way, there is also the matter of Ling Yu and Douluo. You'd better not let anything fall into my hands. GGG. But it is a pity that the direction of things will disappoint Guangling. Han Li dared to bring Duguyan back without even saying hello. How could he not make any preparations? Not to mention, in Douluo continent, 3 wives and 4 concubines are a common thing, and Han Li has never concealed his thoughts in front of Xiu'er. You must know that Han Li has been shouting in front of Xiu'er that he wants to marry since he was a child. For a man with 10 or 8 wives, Xiu'er has long known about his ambition, so naturally he won't think anything of it and has been mentally prepared for it. In addition, when he returned to Tiandu city, he sent Xiu'er a letter in advance, saying that he would bring Duguyan back, and briefly described her family's situation and her martial arts evolution. Talent, including the heights that can be achieved in the future. Xiu'er has always been by Han Li's side as a maid and sister, even though her relationship has deteriorated a little bit because she has grown up and has some thoughts of her own. But she also knew very well that Han Li was someone who was ready to do big things, so how could she refuse future helpers? Therefore, in Guangling's disappointed expression, although Xiu'er was still a little embarrassed, she still took the initiative to greet Duguyan. You are Sister Yanyan, right? My name is Xiu'er, and I am Xiao Li's sister. I don't know if Xiao Li has ever mentioned me to you. Xiao Li has mentioned you in a letter before, and she is indeed very good looking. Duguyan was a little unhappy when she saw Han Li hugging a young girl in front of her as soon as he went up the mountain, but when she heard that it was Sister Xiu'er, her momentum was half gone. More than once, she mentioned from Han Li and Guangling the maid sister who had grown up with Han Li. She knew that the two were dependent on each other before coming to Wuhan city. Compared to Xiu'er, she was the latecomer. As a result, Xiu'er's attitude towards her was so kind, and she felt a little at a loss for a while. Thank you. You are also very beautiful. You are Xiu'er. Xiao Li often talks nonsense to me. After subconsciously answering the words, she didn't know what to say and looked at Han Li for help. When Han Li saw that Duguyan was at a loss what to do, he couldn't help but laugh, and immediately spoke to help. Okay, Sister Xiu'er, let's go home first, and we'll talk when we get home. We've been riding in the car for more than 10 days, and now we just want to take a bath and eat something. Well, let's go home first. I've had someone prepare it for you before I come out. This is an area that Xiu'er is quite familiar with, and she speaks much more naturally. Okay, let's go. Han Li walked to the two of them, took the initiative to hold their hands, and walked towards his mansion. After walking a few steps, he remembered that he had left his master behind. He turned around and shouted again, Master, let's go. Okay, I got it, here it comes. Why did you ask me? I don't live with you. Guangling, who didn't get the melon, replied a little unhappily. I've also prepared your share. Master, let's come together. Xiu'er smiled and turned around and said that she had been forced by Han Li to change her words and call her master, and Guangling did not refuse. Okay, then for Xiu'er's sake, I'll go with you. This apprentice is really not very good. Guangling smiled at Xiu'er and insulted Han Li again. Master, hurry up. If you keep dawdling, the pool will be cold in a while. Han Li also turned around and shouted, and Guangling quickly took a few steps to follow. In the large bathtub, Han Li took off the towel on his face and let out a sigh of relief. Guangling, who was on the opposite side, also made the same move, leaning against the edge of the pool, looking lazy. By the way, let's forget it for today. You need to take the little girl to get familiar with the environment first, so as not to let her know how to live. I will pick you up tomorrow morning and go to the worship hall together. You have changed so much after being away for 3 months. No. It doesn't make sense to go there. Guangling glanced at Han Li, who looked almost like an adult, and spoke. Well, it's time to go. Just in time, I also plan to send an earth dragon pumpkin to each of my uncles and uncles, as well as medicinal materials. I also asked the uncles to share some of the profit with the research institute, and we will also use it. Not so much. Han Li sat up a little straighter and looked at Guangling. Well, these are enough. Don't talk about the rest of the fairy grass. I will talk to the great worshipper alone, so that the prodigal children below will not get the news and bring it to your uncles and uncles. Make it difficult for them. Guangling glanced at him and warned. Don't worry, I'm not that stupid. Well, let's go find Uncle Qingluan alone later. Han Li looked at Guangling and asked for his advice. Well, I will tell him. Don't worry. When the time comes, he will delay taking it for a month or two. No one can say anything when he breaks through. Guangling rolled his eyes and had an idea. Okay, then I won't participate. Just tell your uncle. I'll see what else he can use later and prepare everything for him together. Han Li stood up and walked out of the pool. The light of his soul power flashed, and the remaining water droplets on his body were evaporated. Guangling stood up, stepped out of the pool, and repeated the same operation. Let's go eat first, and discuss it by the way to improve the statement we made before. The master and apprentice quickly changed their clothes and walked towards the restaurant. Chapter 99. When Guangling and Han Li entered the restaurant, Duguyan and Xiu'er had not arrived yet. It's understandable, after all, it's a girl, so it's more troublesome, so it's not a problem to wait a little longer. However, they didn't have to wait too long. The two had just finalized the new version of Q, and within 10 minutes, the two came hand in hand, and they seemed to be much closer. Sure enough, bathing together can quickly bring the relationship closer. Not only men, but also women can hardly escape from this law. Okay, let's sit down and have something to eat first. Sister Xiu'er and I will accompany you around the area to familiarize yourself with the new environment. Han Li pointed to the position opposite him and Guangling. Okay, it just so happens that after staying in the carriage for so many days, I also want to move around. I feel like my body is almost getting rusty. Duguyan's condition seemed to be no different from usual. Well, Xyli and I will take you to see the flowers. Most of the rare plants that can be collected on the mainland are preserved here. They are very good. There are also some poisonous flowers and poisonous weeds. Xiu'er also smiled and recommended to Duguyan. Really? Then I'll have to see it. Xiu'er's recommendation hit Duguyan right in the heart. Rare plants aside, she still liked poisonous flowers and poisonous weeds. Oh, I almost forgot about this. Han Li then remembered the batch of flowers and plants Douluo gave him. From what Xiu'er said, they should be pretty good. Well, we can exchange those medicinal materials for him later and give him some similar ones as compensation. When Sister Xiu'er uses Qirong Tianju, should you consider becoming his teacher? Not counting Guangling, it was just a verbal title. Sister Xiu'er was called Sister Xiu'er along with him, and Han Li knew it very well. Forget it, we'll talk about this later. It's easy to cause problems if things go wrong, so we'll postpone it for now. Afterwards, I will talk to my master and uncle. It is impossible to give him the Qirongtian chrysanthemum anyway. Not to mention that it is related to the internal factional struggle in Wuhan Palace, and it may not be possible to win over. Han Li is not generous enough to just ask for favor. To this point, even if we don't talk about this, Sister Qirongtianju Xiu'er is very important to Sister Xiu'er, and Han Li will not give in when it comes to the subsequent evolution of martial arts. Although he also felt that the two of them were very strong in the two-dimensional still field, it didn't mean that they had to do it, and it wasn't cost-effective. The atmosphere at the dinner table was pretty good. Seeing the two women talking and laughing harmoniously, Han Li felt a little more delicious while eating. After the meal, Guangling stayed for a while, told him not to forget what happened tomorrow, and then left decisively. In the afternoon, Han Li and Xiu'er took Duguyan to get familiar with the environment, and then took her out for a walk to get to know each other. Then, the three of them went into the rare botanical garden built in the mansion. It has to be said that Duguyan does have some family knowledge. Although she doesn't know much about other plants, she does have a lot of research on poisonous flowers and poisonous weeds. She even transplanted a branch on the spot and got it into her in the little treasure bag. Han Li didn't care about it. She now had an external soul bone and nothing could go wrong. Xiu'er looked on with envy. After all, she was usually very careful when taking care of these plants. She had to pay attention to the distance just when she got close. Seeing this, Han Li decisively took out the Yuxiang Kiluo immortal product and handed it to her, which made Xiu'er feel a lot happier. It was close to 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the three people walked out of the botanical garden. What are we going to do next? Duguyan asked excitedly. Well, there's actually nothing fun on the mountain. Let's wait for a few days. When we move down the mountain, we can take you out to play. Han Li took a look at the time and made a decision in his mind. Okay, just in time, I'm a little tired too. Duguyan nodded, she could tell that Han Li had something to do. You come too, I'm going to let Sister Xiu'er take the grass jelly. If you have experience, you can teach it. Han Li was not ready to let her leave. She had just arrived here, so it was better to be by his side, so as not to be alone with her wild thoughts. Really? Then I want to see it. I haven't seen any other fairy grass yet. Duguyan suddenly became interested again, and at the same time looked at Han Li with some resentment. This guy was really covering his head. No problem, I'll show you everything. Okay, don't talk about this outside. Just go to my room. No one dares to explore there. Han Li looked at the two of them, stopped talking outside, and led them towards his room. When he arrived in the room, Han Li ordered the maids to inform the kitchen to postpone the dinner time until midnight. After he also ordered not to come near unless summoned, he simply used his soul power to set up a barrier and took out all the fairy grass. Well, except for the bloody swan kiss, it's better not to let Duguyan touch this thing for the time being. The age of the soul bone is still too low, let's talk about it later. Xiu'er also read the plant illustration. Although she didn't remember all of them, she was quite impressed. She was a little confused when she saw so many fairy grasses appearing in front of her eyes. So, Han Li pulled her to sit down and told her what happened when she went out. Of course, in Dugubo's case, he did some embellishment, saying that it was because Guangling and he met so late that a series of subsequent events happened. Regarding this matter, he and Dugubo secretly exchanged confessions. After all, neither of them really wanted Duguyan to know the true situation. Although Duguyan was part of the witness, she also enjoyed listening to it. She became a member of the story. Listening to it again was quite interesting for her. I have to say that Han Li told the story quite well. He filled in some ordinary things and told it from another angle. Duguyan felt that she in the story was much more perfect than she was in reality. At the end of the story, Han Li handed the strange velvet Tongdianju to Xiu'er's hands, and in reality he also did the same thing. Oh, why am I still a little envious all of a sudden? Duguyan on the side thought with some reluctance. But she immediately thought that she was the heroine in the story just now. Oh, that's okay, and her mood became better again. Xiu'er didn't refuse, nor would she refuse. Instead, she directly took the purple velvet flowering chrysanthemum with a faint golden light shining on the top of the stamen. Okay, Sister Xiu'er, get ready to take it. Eat the stamens of the heavenly flower first, then the petals one by one, but don't eat the roots. After eating, practice immediately to dissolve the power of the medicine. Han Li pointed to the place where he usually practiced, indicating that she could go there and take it again. Xiu'er answered, walked to her seat, sat down, and swallowed the fairy grass according to Han Li's instructions. Seeing Xiu'er entering into practice, Duguyan leaned closer to Han Li, stretched out her arms and wrapped them around his neck, put her lips to his ear, and breathed softly. I tried it before when I was taking a bath. Xiu'er's ears are very sensitive. To be honest, do you have any hobbies? When I was possessed by my martial spirit, you kept staring at my lower body and even touched it. My tail. Hearing her words, Han Li was instantly furious. He subconsciously glanced at Xiu'er, who was practicing, and then turned his head and said, I'm telling you, don't slander me. It's not a hobby, it's just that I like it. All people have some animalistic characteristics. Seeing his reaction, Duguyan gave him a charming look and tapped his chest. Is that so? Then I'll just take it as such. Han Li glanced at her angrily, pulled her aside and sat down, observing Xiu'er's condition. Chapter 100. Being a caregiver is indeed not an easy task, and that is without being able to practice. Fortunately, neither of them were the kind of taciturn people. After setting up a thin soul barrier, they started gossiping casually. By the way, I heard from Grandpa that Senior Guangling asked you to challenge someone when you come back. Who is it? Is he very powerful? Does he have any accomplices? Do you want me to help you? After Duguyan completely changed her profession to a battle soul master, her desire to fight has always been very high, and she has never formally competed with others, so she has always been looking for opportunities to compete with others. Not counting Han Li, she couldn't touch him at all, so it was nothing to discuss. Hearing her words, Han Li gave her a funny look. Are you sure you want to know? Nonsense, otherwise why would I ask you? Duguyan glared at him in return. Then you will be miserable. I'm afraid you will be hated by your idol. Han Li still clearly remembered that she said that she admired the current female Pope Bibi Dong, so she made fun of her. Ah! Duguyan opened his mouth wide, a little confused. Well, master asked me to beat him up. Well, the challenger is her disciple named Hulina. Do you still want to participate now? Han Li suddenly spoke mid-sentence and raised his eyebrows at Duguyan. Participate? Why don't you participate? Idols are idols, and I've never seen her. Well, since we can't deal with her, we must fight her, and fight her hard. It turns out that the inside of your Wuhan Hall is also in such chaos. The Pope still doesn't deal with it. Duguyan was stunned for a moment, then expressed his position without hesitation, and finally made a complaint. Well, Master and I belong to the Enshrinement Hall, and so do you and Grandpa. But it doesn't matter, it was a matter of their previous generation, so we don't need to care about it, as long as we ignore it. Han Li probably gave her some knowledge about the camp, and then added after thinking about it. Then if you beat up the Pope's disciple, will you get into trouble? Duguyan became even more worried. It's okay, just control the level. Besides, she is several years older than me. If she can't beat me and lets the elders come to trouble me, they will be in more trouble. Well, speaking of which, I haven't seen her yet. It's okay, Han Li reassured. Hearing his answer, Duguyan finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just when she wanted to ask something else, suddenly, there was a movement from Xiu'er who was practicing. The two immediately lifted the soul barrier and leaned over. It's okay, maybe this is a good thing. With just one glance, Han Li relaxed. At this time, Xiu'er's whole body was shrouded in purple gold light, and her heart was pounding, but there was no pain on her face, but a look of relief. Is she really okay? Her heart is glowing and beating so hard. Duguyan asked with some uncertainty. She still had a good impression of this girl who was a few years younger than her and didn't want to see anything happen to her. Don't worry, it's okay. Just like you, Sister Xiu'er's martial spirit is also evolving. It's not appropriate to say that it's evolving. It should be said that it's strengthening. Her high-level martial spirit is a bit scary. She can't reach this level with just the Qirong Tianju threshold. Han Li pulled her hand to reassure her. Are you talking about the dark gold dread claw bear? I have never heard of anyone with such a martial spirit. Duguyan knew what happened to Xiu'er and also knew that her current martial spirit was a mutated crystal bear, so she asked in surprise. You guessed it right, it's the dark gold terror claw bear, but it's impossible now. Sister Xiu'er doesn't have enough background. Even if she has the fairy grass as a base, she has to at least go all the way to the soul saint before the martial soul can evolve. Completely. Han Li confirmed her statement and expressed his speculation. I really can't see that you have such high expectations for Xiu'er. Duguyan looked at Han Li and said slightly sourly. Ha, what kind of jealousy are you feeling? If your martial spirit continues to evolve according to my plan, it will not be weaker than the dark gold terror claw bear. Moreover, your current martial spirit is already the top in the mainland, okay? Han Li grabbed her hand and replied somewhat dumbfounded. I forgot, the time for the martial soul to evolve is still short. I always subconsciously think that my martial soul is still the jade phosphorus snake. Duguyan turned his head away in embarrassment and whispered. For a moment, Han Li was silent. Girl, you were discussing with me just now about finding someone to fight, and then you turned around and forgot about it. How proud of you. Duguyan was also a little embarrassed. Fortunately, Xiu'er has always been a considerate and good girl, and she did not forget to come to the rescue even at this time. The purple gold light on her body quickly converged and she opened her eyes. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw two people standing next to her, looking at each other without speaking. She blinked and said curiously, "What's wrong with you?" Only then did Han Li and Duguyan realize that she had woken up. The awkward atmosphere immediately disappeared and they both turned to look at her. Nothing, Sister Xiu'er, how do you feel? Han Li stretched out his hand, pulled her up, and asked with a smile. It's very comfortable. I feel like my body is much more transparent. Even my soul power is running much faster. Well, my martial soul seems to be different too. While talking, Xiu'er also controlled the round ears on her head to move, which was very cute. Han Li and Duguyan followed her movements and looked over her head, and found that there were indeed new changes. Xiu'er's ears used to be crystal-colored, more transparent, but now, her ears are coated with a light purple gold color, making them look more luxurious and beautiful. Sister Xiu'er, take a look at your martial spirit and see if there are any new changes. Han Li wanted to simply evaluate the changes in Wuhan. Good. Xiu responded and immediately entered the spirit-possessed state. The main changes caused by her martial spirit were concentrated in her hands, so Han Li looked directly at her hands. Sure enough, Xiu's martial spirit was strengthened again. After possessing her, her palms were only brown, but now their color turned purple gold. Not only that, the front of her palms also had a faint flicker. It has a metallic luster, but has not completely formed sharp claws. Not only that, after being possessed by the martial spirit this time, Xiu's whole body was covered with a layer of purple gold light, making her look much stronger than before. Xiao Li, I feel that after being possessed by the martial spirit, I seem to be much stronger than before. Both my strength and defense have increased by about 30%. Well, my crystallization ability has also improved a bit. But it should only be 1/10. Xiu happily talked about her new changes, her eyes narrowed. Duguyan walked over curiously and wanted to squeeze her arm, but found that it was blocked by the purple gold light. Congratulations to Sister Xiu. Perhaps your martial spirit can now be called the purple gold crystal bear. Han Li looked at the girl in front of him and was very happy for her.